This is the MLW Radio Network.
Welcome to a new episode of the Eastern Lariat podcast, your show for news, notes, reviews, and opinions on the world of Japanese pro wrestling here on the MLW Radio Network, as well as on cagematch.net. As always, I'm your host, STRIGGA, and as always, joined by Dylan. Dylan, what's up?
We got so much stuff going on right now, STRIGGA. I mean, man, what a weekend. And this is kind of like the last true kind of big bang of Japanese pro wrestling of the year, because we're heading into the tag league season. The big title is probably not getting defended again until the very end of the year.
Yeah,
we'll talk about on there. But hey, as we speak, as we're recording right now, NFL in Germany right now, in Frankfurt, Chiefs and Dolphins. What the hell's going on with this league? It's all over the world now. Flag football is going to be in the Olympics.
Germany's actually quite good in flag football, actually, so they might have a shot.
Look at that, competitors. Maybe you could get a medal when they come in there. Yeah, okay, I like that. I like what I'm hearing. This flag football style all over the world. Shout out to everybody out there who could enjoy NFL and American football stylings. But want to thank all the listeners out there for joining us once again. Just want to say to everybody, check out our YouTube page where we have all kinds of stuff going on there. We always put the shows up. We put our first ever free episode of TigerCast W. If you've seen the show, you know Hell in the Hole is kind of like one of the best arcs. We put our review, me and my sister Cheyenne, put the review of pretty much the best episode of the series up for free. So check it out on the YouTube. It's a lot of fun. There's goofy banter between me and my sister, as she's ruthless in a lot of ways. But she's feeling a little under the weather right now. Hopefully she feels a little bit better.
Well, the past 2 weeks, yeah.
And I hope you feel better, and her as well. We all want to feel better in this world and do good things. So check out the YouTube. Go on Spotify. Please give the show a 5-star review. It will help get us up in whatever weird algorithms there are, and not just Spotify, wherever you want to listen. If you're really cool, you can go to all of the services and just give 5 stars on there. That would really help out a lot. Subscribe to the YouTube, as I said. I started this Instagram page, which I really didn't know what to do with at first, to be honest with you. But I ended up, it's almost like a historical listing, because the thing with Instagram is it's not like Twitter or X or whatever, where you can just post news and stuff like that. It's all about pictures. So I didn't know what to do. I'm not really a picture fan. I don't take them that much. But through the power of technology and ideas, basically it's like a day in history of Japanese pro wrestling. Yeah. Every day there's been different things I put up there. I've got everyone talking about Terry Funk's last match in All Japan, the start of Mass Fiesta show. We haven't seen that in a few years, unfortunately. You got the Misawa Kobashi famous match on Halloween, Kobashi defending on Ogawa years later. It's like there's a funny picture of Toru Yano from 2003 where he's trying to be a shoot fighter. It's very funny there. Yes, and also even worse, as goofy as Yano trying to be a pride fighter is, even worse is Hiroshi Tanahashi's horrendous haircut from 2003. Which is also noted on there too. So you get a double dose on that episode. It was the anniversary of their first ever singles match that day. Posted the Weekly Pro cover too. That's going to be on there every week. This one had Keno. So if you want daily, or not daily, but weekly updates of the Shoe Pro cover, you can get it on the Instagram as well. And also our episode. So it's another avenue Hopefully everything goes good there. And as I said, thank you. Wherever you're listening to us, wherever you're checking us out, wherever you responded to us. I know we got some responses on Twitter for a lot of the attendance notes that you put up. Please know that we appreciate you so much, and hopefully you enjoy today's show and all of our episodes as well.
Yes, couldn't have said it any better. I want to give one more shout out because we're going to talk about Osaka a lot on this show. 2 shows that we're going to talk about took place in Osaka this past weekend. And just today, the baseball team, the Osaka Hanshin Tigers, have won the baseball championship in Japan for the first time since 1985. So congrats to the Hanshin Tigers and congrats to Osaka Pro's famous Tigers Mask, who is a big fan, of course, of the Hanshin Tigers. And shout out to Kenichiro Arai, who uses the Hanshin Tiger Suplex as a finish.
That's how you know you're a true fan, when you name your moves after something.
Yeah.
You know, all my moves are based off of video games. I never was able to transition anything with the Panthers or the Grizzlies. And I try to avoid mentioning them right now the way my teams are playing. Although the Panthers did get their first win of the season last week, and hopefully today they can get a second. Grizzlies still have not won this season, so my teams are not the greatest right now. But if you are a Hanshin Tigers fan, you've got a lot to be happy about right now. I mean, you know, all the other, you know, teams in the league, the Giants, the Bay Stars, they don't have it going right now. The Tigers are the ones that won the championship. So good stuff for NPB. Really love the culture of baseball in Japan. Always a lot of fun. If anybody watched the World Baseball Classic this year, whether it's Japan or Taiwan, the fans there were going crazy. They made baseball seem way more fun than it actually is in America. So I love the fan base there and the culture they have.
One more fact, and that's transitioning to pro wrestling. Sanada, the current reigning IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, has been champion since April 8th of this year. And as of this recording on November 6th, he has officially surpassed Shingo Takagi as the longest reigning IWGP World Heavyweight Champion in the short history of the title since 2021. Yeah, Sanada has defended the title 4 times since his victory in April against Hiromu Takahashi, Yonatsuji, Jack Perry, and Evil, of course. And he is on the way to once again defend it against a former ally in Tetsuya Naito at the Tokyo Dome. And we've talked about this title run of Sanada's a lot on this show, Dylan. Where do you stand now in November 2023, knowing that the title match is set and that we will probably get some more preview tags along the next few weeks? Where do you stand with Sanada as champion?
You know, you mentioned the Tigers winning the NPB championship. I feel like Sanada might be more closer to the Tokyo Yakult Swallows as a team. You know, they're in last place in the standings. But I mean, if you look at it,
he got all his facts here straight. That's great.
And I want to bring that to you. I'm a huge baseball fan as well. So like I said, I respect the culture. I played it when I was younger. So I really got to give respect to all the players. And even Sanada, who I don't think has had a fantastic title reign by any stretch of the imagination. But hey, if you look at it from the start of this new title lineage, he is the top champion throughout its history. It's not a belt known for great title reigns. I think we can safely say so far.
It's been cursed from day one.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously at the very beginning it was really bad. You know, but Shingo
brought some stability to it.
Exactly. Like his reign wasn't really good or special, but it brought stability to it, which it desperately needed after Ibushi and Ospreay, which were totally crazy. That whole situation. And you know, then we've had our ups and downs with it.
Yeah, Jay White's title run was horrendous.
That was one of the down points.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't even in Japan for the majority of his title run.
That's true. And maybe we'll have a new title that could happen with in the future as well. So they may be a big fan of that. So we'll see. But yeah, there's been ups and downs. But it's like you said, the title, if you look at the lineage throughout it, it's not been good overall. And maybe they need more stability to it now again. And Sonata was stable. I mean, he was mentally stable.
I was just going to ask, could you actually make the claim that Sonata's run has been the best of this title run so far?
Ah, that's interesting.
I mean, let's look at these runs. We've said it. Shingo Takagi's run was during the pandemic. There was this really bad attended Grand Slam Tokyo Dome show they did with 6,000 in attendance. Then he lost it to Okada. Okada had it for 159 days, lined up some great... I mean, probably the first Okada run probably was better.
Yeah, that was the best one.
Yeah.
Even the second one was shorter, but in terms of quality, you still had, defenses against Shingo and Tanahashi.
Yeah, that Shingo match, that's true. That Shingo match was great.
Yeah, and he had to remember the match in America with Tanahashi as well. So it's like, and it was good. Sonata's reign, there's just not a lot to it, to be honest with you, other than poorly attended shows that we can point to. And even in the G1 as champion, we talked about it at the time. I don't think he was a great person to pair with a lot of. I think he kind of held back the development of the young guys. If you had a better champion, a better lead in that block, that would have made the Three Musketeers be a lot stronger than they were.
I guess so. Yeah, that's a very good point. So, yeah, this feels like Sonata's reign being like a very long placeholder championship run right now.
And that's really what it is, ultimately. Like
but a very long one, right? Transitional runs are usually shorter.
Yeah, and I agree. They tried to do something with a guy they've kind of had bubbling under forever. He was really bubbling under, and I think that kind of hurt the start of it, because he really was doing nothing for a long, long time. And then it's like, okay, we're turning him away from the LIJ, we're giving him his own faction. And you had a little bit of buzz with that. It wasn't, again, I didn't sense it was like red hot or anything, but it was a nice little buzz for him, and he got a title reign. I appreciate the effort of doing something new.
Definitely.
I just wish the timing was better, because if you remember, Okada was really hot when he was champion. I mean, that was some of his best work. Remember, to me, the tag match at the anniversary show, him and Tanahashi versus Bishamon, was one of the best New Japan matches of the whole year. Yeah. You had the title defenses. He was doing great work bullying the young guys. Everyone loved the heel edge he had. He had a real great swag. He was a great champion for that time, and they went away from him a little early, in my opinion. But I appreciate the effort to try something different, and ultimately it's just going to lead to what you said, an extended and too long placeholder run to get to Naito in the Dome. And that they have a story that they went with. And we'll see. Like I said, once we see the Dome, that's when we can judge it more accurately overall. Like, did this ultimately work out in the end or not?
Yeah. I mean, everybody is just waiting for Naito to eventually win the title in the Tokyo Dome so they can finally put a rest to this roll call storyline that they are also portraying on commentary. So the thing about the title match is it's not really a hot title match.
No.
Unlike years before when it was really on razor's edge for you as a fan, not knowing what would be the outcome. Would Okada or Tanahashi win? Would Okada or Naito win the title? Here it seems so obvious that Sonata can't go out of this Tokyo Dome show as the champion.
Yeah, that's true. But also, if you look at it in the recent years, it hasn't been exactly great shakes either. I mean, you remember this year's title run, or the main event with Okada and Jay. Mm-hmm. It's like Jay wasn't going to win that match overall. They've built it all. Again, this whole show will be determined by Naito. Like this Wrestle Kingdom. I think now we kind of talked about it on the last episode. Mm-hmm. And it's considering how it played out. This is not a strong card like that they're setting up on paper. There's one match that is appealing to us as fans, but I think they're missing the big match that we wanted. Like that would be the undercard, on the undercard rather. So this show is going to be determined from a business perspective by Tetsuya Naito's star power and pretty much on his shoulders alone. And we'll see how that plays out overall. I would not want it this way. Believe me, if I could have gained power and had a coup d'etat of New Japan earlier in the year, everything would be different now. It wouldn't be like this, but they've put it all on Naito's shoulders, and he's came through every time that they've called upon him in the past. And like we talked about last week, or last episode, we basically said a similar thing, where if things didn't play out how we thought it would, and it's not a great card, will he succeed? I still think he will. I still think this show will be all right as long as Naito is in the main event.
The reaction for the video that was played for Bryan Danielson in the arena, I thought, was great.
Yeah. I
think the question was, is Danielson really a name that will draw a lot of fans to the arena? And I don't know if we can really determine that in the end, because much like you said, the majority of it will be on Naito's shoulders. But from the reaction, I think that the match with Okada that they are going to do can be that big Tokyo Dome match that you said you were missing on that card.
It's not as big as if it was Kenny and Ospreay.
That is correct. Yes.
I like that was the one that was missing that I think they needed. But this is still good. Like, I mean, if they had Kenny and Ospreay, this would be a great third string match. And maybe, and like I said, the first match from a wrestling fan perspective, us just analyzing the in-ring, never mind business. We can't really judge it fairly because of the injury. It wasn't as great as it could have been. It got overshadowed at the Forbidden Door show. We all know that. But even still, it's great that Bryan is such an amazing wrestler. Even with a broken arm, even with things going against him, they still got like 99% of wrestlers, if that was their best match they ever had, would be great with it. Like, it was still a really good match. It just wasn't up to our expectations. The best Okada's ever been versus the best wrestler maybe ever. It wasn't as great as it could have been, and it got overshadowed to the fans there by Omega and Ospreay, the second match. Now they'll have a chance in a good spot to really unleash and do everything. I'm sure they're going to keep Bryan in basically bubble wrap until the Wrestle Kingdom show. You know, and they're going to do everything they can to ensure that this match goes off without a hitch. And from a wrestling fan standpoint, it's great. I think from the business standpoint, Omega and Ospreay would have meant more to the Japanese fans.
Yeah, that is without question.
And we'll talk about what they did with that title a little bit, what they have planned for it.
Yeah, the third match that pretty much is set in stone is now going to be a three-way match. And from there, we're going to transition to the Power Struggle show in Osaka. Will Ospreay defeated Shota Umino in 40 minutes with the Stormbreaker. First, before we go to the aftermath of that match got a lot of traction yesterday, and from the get-go got a lot of great ratings. Just checking what it is right now. It stands at 9.64 on Cage based on 164 votes as we speak. What was your opinion of this very long main event?
Well, first of all, I think we can agree that it was long based on your reaction.
That is a fact. That is a
fact. Yes. That is true. We cannot deny that. I think that rating is so high for me. And I mean, it was a great match. Don't get me wrong. I liked it, but that's the second highest rated match on Cage Match in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
Besides the original Omega and Ospreay match, which is among the highest ever. Like, this match, if you look at the ratings, it shows you why I can't quite invest in the Cage Match ratings as much as some people. Like, with some of these matches that it's ahead of on the list. It's so outrageous when you think about it. But it's a great match, though. Like, that's the thing. If we just judge it as it is, this did everything you would have wanted a match between these two to accomplish. So much better than their match last year.
Oh, way better, yeah.
Yeah, it shows you how much Shota's grown as a wrestler. And I think we really saw that come to fruition in the G1, where he was one of the guys of every block that gained the most of any G1 participant. And we saw it come to fruition here against Ospreay. I personally, here's a problem with this match. I know some people thought Umino would win. I personally thought there was no chance that was going to happen right before Wrestle Kingdom because there's no real avenue to go. So I wasn't really buying into a lot of their dramatic spots that they were trying to do. And I mean, they did everything they could in this match, but maybe even a little too much. Not just in timing, but I just think in terms of what they actually did in the match. They threw everything but the kitchen sink in there. And I like that they had they showed Umino's growth and they tried to tell the story of that in the match. And in the end, it's like nothing really stuck with me about this match as like a big moment or anything like that.
There actually were two that stuck with me.
Okay.
The first one, and that was kind of the hook of the entire match, was at first when in the middle portion of the match when Will Ospreay pinned Shota Umino to the mat and just hit him in the face with forearm after forearm after forearm, which resulted in Jon Moxley coming out ringside and cheering Umino on.
Yeah, good point. That is one, yeah.
Yeah, which really caused Shota Umino to show the fire that he was missing in the early part of the match. Because the early part of the match was mostly Will Ospreay showing off his entire offense, and the offense also that has brought him to this place that at first was like kind of emulating AJ Styles with the phenomenal forearm and stuff like that. We saw that in this match. So it's kind of Ospreay showing off all of his developments throughout the years in move form. And that led to this moment where he pinned Umino to the mat and just threw forearms at him. Moxley coming out. And then Umino pinned Ospreay to the mat in similar fashion and smashed him in the face, which resulted in Red Shoes, who was, by the way, the referee. Red Shoes to not call the match off, but to check on Ospreay to ensure that he really wasn't out. Because that's something that is brought up always on commentary by Chris Charlton, that Red Shoes in one match that Shota Umino was in, basically in quote unquote saved Umino from losing the match. So that was really a good play on this real thing that happened where Red Shoes really looked bad as a ref. And I thought
as he always does.
In storyline it makes sense, but it once again made him look dumb as a ref because this was clearly a ref stoppage. But yeah, those were the two moments in the match that really stuck with me.
Yeah, you made a good call, especially on the Moxley one. They did a good job building that as a moment. But in terms of those are good moments. But just in terms of the wrestling, I didn't really sense anything too compare the Tiger Driver here to the one at Forbidden Door.
It was very gentle.
Exactly. Like, it's nothing that was like too, and it didn't even mean as much. Like, which kind of, it speaks poorly of. Again, I don't want to be too like critical here, but it speaks poorly of your psychology when you have a great move and then it's already like within months it's already not where it was. Like, you've already devalued it.
Yeah.
But
this shouldn't be a move that someone kicks out of.
Exactly. Like, you've already prostituted it, and it's like, if you read my Toyota Tuesday series we have on the Patreon, patreon.com/Eastern Lariat. If you look at a lot of the reviews I did going through Toyota's career, one of my big issues, and this was actually weird because, or not weird, it just is kind of a different taste thing, I guess. Her most famous year, the year that she won the award in The Observer for Wrestler of the Year, was 95. But if you actually look at her matches, that was the year where she really lost value in the Japanese Ocean Cyclone Suplex. It used to be an unbeatable kill shot, and then in that era, it moved on to not really being that big of a deal. Like overall, like people were kicking out of it left and right. And that at least took place, and I was critical of it in my reviews, but that at least took place over a course of 5, 6, 7 years. Here, it was like, maybe 5, 6, 7 years is probably too much, maybe 4 or 5 years. Still though, that's a lot more than 4, 5, 6 months, which we saw here. And I didn't really like that part of it. And like I said, it was a good match. A lot happened. Like if the most definition terms of work rate, this match had a lot of it. I'm sure, I don't know what Meltzer graded as a star rating, but I'm sure that he really liked it a lot. And you could see that the fans, again, I think we always have to keep that in perspective with the cage match ratings. This is not a small circle of people. Anybody who is a fan can vote on this, and those are the people that do vote, are the true fans of the promotion, whether it's New Japan or NXT or AEW. So you'll see that, and you'll get really high ratings that you won't get with other legendary matches. So I guess that's a way to look at it. That's why I try to keep that in perspective overall. But was it a 9.64? Was it the 18th, 20th best match of all time? No, it
was not. Yeah, but that's the match that we had. And after the match, it seemed like that Jon Moxley was going to call out Ospreay for a title match, but they were interrupted by David Finlay. And he had Gedo with him, and he had a sledgehammer with him, which is kind of poetical that the booker brings a sledgehammer to smash 2 title belts that don't have any use in the company. And apparently now we are getting a new one. Yeah, that angle really didn't come across well. Because Will Ospreay and Jon Moxley, they are clearly on a different level than Finlay. And you gotta think that this was planned a long time ago, that this was going to happen, because Gedo doesn't plan his Wrestle Kingdom matches 1 or 2 months in advance. He plans them months in advance. And the question is, if this has been planned for so long, why was Finlay's run in the last couple of months so mid in the long run? He had a mid G1 climax. He lost the Never title. He just a couple of weeks ago lost to Tama Tonga for the Never title. And now he came back winning this match here in the mid-card over Tangaloa, which they worked hard in the match. They did a lot of stuff on the outside. It was an all right match. But in my opinion, they failed to build Finlay up to a level where you could realistically buy him as the third guy in this championship match.
I'm so confused by all of this, to be honest with you. In terms of Finlay, though, I think that, like I said, I think we liked his run more than a lot of people, because if you look at the reactions,
I guess so too, yeah.
Yeah, if you look at the reactions, it's like people talk about him like he's the worst wrestler alive, pretty much. And it's like, especially when he started off, I thought he actually was doing a really great job the first few months. And I think it really petered out, kind of, by the end, unfortunately. It's not necessarily, I don't necessarily blame him as much as their booking for that, to be honest with you. And we
that was
talked
my
about
point too, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. And I loved the style that he had. I thought it was really good. Like this bruising. And for once, we had a heel that wasn't a cheating guy who had terrible matches all the time. It
seems like in New Japan it always fizzles out to exactly that in the end.
Exactly, and that's the problem. It fizzled out. And last month, like I said, at the King of Pro Wrestling show, or Destruction rather, I guess you could say, now. It felt like they really pulled back on the War Dogs in general, and only to come back with this new thing, which puts him in. Like you said, the problem with this also is that it puts him in a tough spot, because why wouldn't we want to see Ospreay versus Moxley? Which isn't even the match. The match we really want is Ospreay versus Omega, the third in the series. which I think is interesting politically to think about. Why didn't that match take place? Because it's so logical and on the nose that their series would be wrapped up here.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like there's a reason that it didn't.
There is surely a reason why the match is not taking place.
Yes,
and the reason, the reason being AEW doesn't want to give that match away.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
I was thinking the exact same thing as you, Strigga, and I'm sure a lot of people agreed.
Yeah.
And thought of that right away.
I think it's blatantly obvious.
Yes, exactly. So now we end up again. Moxley, a great wrestler. I had no problems with him at all. I really enjoy his work a lot. I mean, just look at this last week's Dynamite. His promo might have been the best part of that show, like that he had backstage talking about Orange Cassidy. And I'm a fan of him, and he's done a lot of great things for New Japan with Umino, and him coming out was a great moment, like you said, and the match. And that match, like I said, the thing is, and I know I probably sounded a little critical of it, but the fact of the matter is it was a great match that Umino benefited from greatly. It just wasn't as high as everyone's standards from it. That's
just
all.
To get that straight, I think that Shota Umino really was elevated to a level that he has not been at before. And despite the loss, he gained so much here. Maybe despite is the wrong word, because losses in Japanese wrestling, we're going to talk about that in a bit as well when we go to All Japan. Losses in Japanese wrestling are different from losses in, for example, American wrestling, because when you go to the Young Lions system, they always start out losing. Kenta Kobashi started out losing his, what was it, like 100 matches in a row before becoming a big star. So losing and how you react to losses is crucial to Japanese pro wrestling. And he is now 0-4 against Ospreay, I think. But still, though, the effort, the fighting spirit that he showed was tremendous, and this in the long run will benefit him more than this one victory over Ospreay would have.
Yeah, like a loss, and the idea of this is very common in a lot of martial arts. I was trained in wushu and Huajiquan Kung Fu, but I was really poor when I trained at like jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu and MMA. But my trainer, when I went there, I didn't do it long, so I still suck at it probably, to be honest. But I struggled with it. I wasn't winning because the stuff that I trained wasn't effective in martial arts. But the person who was training me said, there's no such thing as losing. It's either winning or learning. Yeah. Pretty much. Like a loss isn't a loss. It's an opportunity to grow. That's the thing, pretty much. So, yes, he did lose, technically, but it's an opportunity for him to grow. It's a path in his journey. That's a big part of Japanese wrestling and the mindset of anything like that. The fact of the matter is, like I said, we criticized it only by the high standard that it was placed upon, but it was still really good, a great match and very effective for him. This angle and what they did with Finlay and Moxley and Ospreay, it was actively bad.
This show should have ended with Will Ospreay on the mic telling the fans how tremendous of a wrestler Shota Umino is, then leaving the ring and leaving Shota Umino in the spotlight and letting the fans applaud his efforts.
That would have been a major moment, for him in his career. If that had happened, that would have been an amazing thing. And maybe they could have set up something for the title afterwards. Maybe you could even have Finlay attack him on the ramp or something. Like you give him his big moment, and then you immediately transition to whatever you're planning with this title. But we kind of spoke about it in the G1. Remember, the Three Musketeers really didn't get that big moment. That we thought they might. The way they set it up. So they're holding off on it, and I think it'll be a big deal when they do it. I think Umino is definitely firmly on the path to stardom in the company. I think they've done a great job with him of anybody, and Tsuji as well. He had a great match with Ospreay as well. I think that was as good as this match, to be honest with you.
I agree.
So let's not forget about Tsuji and all of this as well. It's going to be interesting, and they've got a path too. They're probably going to set Umino and Narita up as a tag team. Maybe they teased that earlier on.
Sure.
That would be a great spot. Maybe you could give them a tag league win. I think that would be a great path. Give them something. Like, give these guys something, in my opinion. Like, they did lose as a part of their journey, but I would like to see some progress, and maybe we'll see that next year as well. But rounding about to the main point of all this title match sucks. Like, the triple threat, the angle was just completely stupid and goofy. What are they going to do now? So they teased that it would be a new title. Like, they're not going to be the U.S. or the U.K. It's going to be the NATO title now that they're going to have in there, I guess. Or some sort of... What is
All-Pacific Championship.
The All-Atlantic title is now... That is their trade. We will not be able to do Omega and Ospreay, but we will take one of your old belts.
Yeah. If you're doing an angle like that, they could have as well also smashed the Never Openweight title too, and just combine all those titles. And the strong title, yeah.
And the women's title.
Which one?
All of them.
There are two actually.
No, to be fair, let me just say Julia and Hyan had a really good match.
Oh yeah, okay.
For the title, and she lost all her money at the casino, so we got to be nice to Julia. Right now.
Oh man, yeah, but seriously, the outlook of just another title for the sake of another title isn't really great, because this is just replacing the US title, It's just a different title. But
it's really the same.
Yeah, exactly. Are we confident that they are treating the title any differently? No, we're not. And they've introduced another title this year, or last year actually, at the end of last year. And once again, they immediately broke their own promise with Zack Sabre Jr. as the champion. So no, I don't have any confidence that this new title, whatever it's called, maybe, who knows, maybe they're going back to the IC title, who knows. I have no confidence that that title will be any better. It's just titles.
It'll be a new title. What do you think a snazzy name would be for it? What if they just call it the Japan title?
I don't think they want that, because they want to be recognized internationally.
Well, they have the world title.
Yeah.
That's international. Well, what if they call it the South American title? We have
sure.
the North American title in NXT. Why can't we have a South American title? There's a great history of wrestling in South America. You got Chile, Brazil, Argentina. All of those places have great wrestling histories. Colombia's bringing great wrestlers. Let's give South America some love. Give the South Americans some love with the South American title. And get rid of the U.S., get rid of the U.K. We don't need that. We have... And really, the U.S. title is kind of stupid when you think about they have the strong titles, which should be
exactly. It should be the U.S. title.
Yeah,
I really don't think that the idea of the All Pacific title is too bad, because they are branching out to Australia. They had shows in New Zealand, so that would fit much better than a U.S. title fits. Maybe the All Asia title.
I think that name might be taken though.
There already is an All Asia title. True.
Where's Ryuji Sai at? He wants money. Pay him.
Daimonji so is the champion right now.
Well, yeah, that's right. Lands in representing heavily right now. Hey, I like that.
Do you think they'll sell the title to New Japan?
If they paid enough, I'm confident that Ryuji Sai would have no problem working that out, going in there, and he may end up getting the title back somehow as well. Even after he scams people for money, that's kind of his thing. He's very good at it, and I will not judge him for it. But Daimonji is a good wrestler, for the record, by the way.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, I like your idea. Actually, a region-specific title. Stardom did a show in Thailand recently. Maybe they can branch out more into the Southeast Asian market. Preston actually talked about that a little bit on there, if they wanted to. So yeah, give us some sort of region. Does it have to be a region-specific title on top of it? What is the rule that a secondary title belt must be a region as well?
There is no rule. For the longest time, the quote-unquote secondary titles in Japanese wrestling were weight-based titles.
Yeah.
But we've been long past that idea.
True.
Well, they have weight-based titles, they have region-based titles, and they also have television station-based titles. So they basically have all the tropes in pro wrestling.
That's true. We do have the TV title as well. Maybe the New Japan World title, not the IWGP title, the New Japan World title. Yeah. It will only be defended on their streaming broadcast network. And they have the King of Pro Wrestling title as well. That took the name of the pay-per-view. Is there another pay-per-view that needs to be retired that they could change the title of? The Sakura Genesis title.
I like Sakura Genesis as a show name.
True.
Destruction is really
every title. The title belt will be destroyed every time after the match. They teased it with this. STRIGGA, give us the destruction title.
So it's the literal opposite of the Dragon Gate titles, where you, as the champion, add something to the belt with the keys. Yeah. No. With each defense of the belt, you lose one part of the championship.
That's right. If you win the title, you must smash it with a sledgehammer once. And we will see how this title lasts. I don't know. Like you said, at the end of the day, it's just the U.S. title. It'll just be under a different name, pretty much. And I expect it to fulfill the exact same purpose. I think Finlay might win the title, to be honest with you. Because really? If you have one of the other guys win it, they're not going to be there. So we're going to be in the same spot as we were talking about earlier with the J title.
Yeah, if you put the title on Mox, you once again are in trouble getting it off.
Yeah, and that's right. And Ospreay's going.
Ospreay's leaving. Yeah. So I think they might put over Finlay. Yeah.
I don't know why they did it in a three-way. I don't know. I don't understand any of this, but I know the ultimate thing of it is this is not an appealing match. And I guess they just didn't think Ospreay and Finlay was enough as a singles match, so they threw in this special deal, and they kind of reheated the AEW thing since Omega's not there. But it's not appealing. Again, I'm not looking forward to this, no matter what the title is called or what division or region that it represents. I just don't think this is a very interesting match up and down. And if Finlay wins, that's a good spot for him, I guess. Mm-hmm. But it would have been better if he just kept his own title.
Yes. I think he was very good in his Never run.
Yeah.
But I guess they think that the Never title is below the US title and below this new title, which is why he had to drop it and now is getting a higher position on the card, I guess.
I guess so. I mean, for all we know, they could just have Ospreay with it. They'd do something later. Like, we don't really know. It doesn't even matter, really, like, who holds this title. Like, the U.S. title was not that big of a deal in the Ospreay and Omega story to the fans. It was more so them wrestling. That was the deal. And the title just happened to be there. I don't think it would have made a difference if they didn't have the title.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the second match that we have for Wrestle Kingdom. The third one is based off the junior heavyweight title match that we had on the show. Hiromu Takahashi defended against Taiji Ishimori. Ishimori coming back from his injury in the Best of the Super Junior, and he tried to take out Hiromu Takahashi's shoulder, so kind of repay Hiromu for allegedly injuring him. So the match story was pretty good. The thing about this match, though, was that there was zero chance of Hiromu Takahashi actually losing the title, and that has really been a sword that's been hanging over this title run for really the majority part of it, because you never, ever have the idea that Hiromu Takahashi might actually be losing. So the match was good, but left a lot to be desired because there are really no stakes to the Hiromu matches that you can really claim that he might be losing.
Totally agree. I think this match would have came across so much better if they had done it at Wrestle Kingdom, because I think that you would have been able to buy him losing at such a big stage a lot more.
Maybe, yeah.
Than a power struggle. Again, that's the same problem I had with the main event. Like, they're not going to change him.
Power Struggle is really a lame duck show in that sense.
Yeah, exactly. And it's nothing new. Again, I mean, listen, This was the show that had Yujiro challenge for the title against Tanahashi. So, Hey, it happened. I'm not making this up straight.
No, you're correct. Yes.
Yeah, but that's the kind of show we're talking about here. Of course, it's just a bridge show to get to Wrestle Kingdom. Like, if we could fast forward through this to Wrestle Kingdom, they would, but they can't. So
we used to have the final defense of the briefcase on these shows.
Oh yeah,
there was always the lame duck matches as well, but now Naito has his bag. Man.
Hey, on the Instagram, one of my posts was talking about when Jericho defended the IC title versus Evil in the main event of a Power Struggle. So that's this is the kind of show we're talking about, and that's the problem with all the matches, really. Hiromu, we had a longer form discussion. We don't need to reiterate what we said last episode, but it's not a hot title reign right now. Speaking of petering out, I think this title reign would definitely qualify for that. I think the match itself would have came across a lot better at Wrestle Kingdom. The work was pretty good, to be honest with you. These guys have great chemistry. I really like them together wrestling. But like you said, it just wasn't that important. But I would still recommend – I think it's worth a watch, though, even though just from a wrestling perspective. I like the storytelling they had.
Yeah.
And I think Ishimura is a really good worker when he wants to be. I'd
say it's the fourth best match on the show.
Fourth best?
Yeah,
definitely.
Best one was the main event. Second best was the six-man tag title, then Moxley versus Okan, and then the junior title match.
Yeah, I guess when you put it that way, I guess you're right. To be honest with you, it was when you said though, like listing the matches like that, I really didn't think that much of this show. But after I left it, but when you lay the matches like that. All four of those are quality matches.
Yeah, it was a good show, actually.
Yeah, exactly. So good thing to bring up there. I think that is worth talking about. This was a good show in multiple ways, not just the main event overall. But what about where we're going next with this junior title at Wrestle Kingdom?
Yes, so Hiromu Takahashi called out El Desperado, who was on commentary for this match, and Desperado really seemed surprised about the call-up. And it really feels like that these two have been wrestling a lot in recent years, but it's actually not been that much. They've not wrestled this year, at least not in a singles match. Their last match was in the Best of the Super Junior 29 final match, where Hiromu Takahashi beat El Desperado in June of 2022. And in all, since 2020, where their rivalry really set off, they have had, quote-unquote, only 5 matches. So it's not like we've seen this match a zillion times, but it feels like it. It feels like it because these two are so tied together in a lot of ways because their stories always have been tied together. So we get this match again in the Tokyo Dome. And Hiromu Takahashi, of course, is on his way to claim the longest title run. And I don't know if you've said it. If had Taiji Ishimura been the challenger in the Tokyo Dome, maybe the stakes would have been higher. I think the stakes are higher now with Desperado being the challenger because Desperado feels like the closest to Hiromu Takahashi in terms of positioning in the junior division. Still, though, I have a hard time imagining that Takahashi loses the title here.
Your statement about them not wrestling a lot is somewhat true, but also a bit deceptive because remember that they faced off in the multi-man matches as well. The last 2 Tokyo Dome shows, they either had a singles match, a multi-man match, or in 2020 at December, they were at the finals of the tournament as well. So I remember one of those years, it may have been the couple of years ago where they had a singles match, you wrote an article about their match. And I remember thinking at that time, why is he so invested in this match? They've wrestled it so many times. And that was my true feelings. It wasn't that interesting to me even then. So of course now it's not very interesting to me. Once again, what you said is also true about this being better in terms of it being much more believable that Desperado could win.
It's the highest match they can do in the junior division.
Exactly. And if you have no other options, I'm going to make this point a little bit when we talk about Noah. Look at the options we have. If it wasn't Desperado, who is better that they could put in?
Yeah, but there is nobody because for the majority of this year, Dylan, you thought that it would actually be Minoru Tanaka because he's the one who is holding the record.
I thought that would be the best story.
Yeah, the longest title run.
Yeah.
So if you think that's the best story, that tells you something about their own junior division.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I still think that would be a much better story than this. Yeah. Again, this match, I have no interest in this match. I'm sorry. I don't care who wins. I'm sure it'll be a really good match. Hiromu hasn't been at his A game for a long time now, but this is his spot. Like, this isn't Dragon Gate or Michinoku Pro. This is the Tokyo Dome. He is going to go all out, and they're going to have a crazy match.
But you know what? I've also been thinking about this. I would not be surprised if, how long does he still need to hold this title? Wait a sec. He's 387 days. Mm-hmm. And Takahashi right now is at 305 days. So three more months, basically.
Yeah.
Of this title reign. I would not be surprised if after this title run, it gets out that Hiromu Takahashi had an injury for the majority of this title run. Because this second half of the year is so vastly different from the first half of the year that he's wrestling. None of the matches that he had since, since after the Best of the Super Junior, basically.
That's exactly right.
None of those matches really have lived up to the level of expectation that you usually have for Hiromu Takahashi's matches. It always felt like that there was something missing. So I wouldn't be surprised if he had an injury.
It wouldn't be shocking. I still think it's a motivation issue watching him, but maybe you'll be right. And obviously, if this Dome match doesn't deliver, I think we can definitely point to that. But I think this match is going to be great for what it is. I just don't care about it personally, and I don't care about this title or this division.
Yeah, so, I get it because there really hasn't been any build to this. It's just calling back to, we've been rivals, we do this again.
Exactly. Like, it was just an easy match for them to make, and you're getting one of your guys who you're loyal, like who's been loyal to you at Desperado, and they're putting them together. So it's fine. Like, sure. There's no real better option in their division than him. Like, who else could it have been? There's really nobody. Maybe Wato.
Yeah, Wato. What's he going to do at Wrestling Kingdom?
Oh, well, he doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter what he does.
I have a prediction. He's going to be in the same match as Tomohiro Ishii.
Another guy who unfortunately doesn't matter to their booking. And he definitely should. Even Wato. Remember, him and Hiromu, they had a great match in the Best of Super Junior final.
Yeah, and I was so confident that he was going to win. Man.
And we were also confident Desperado would win last year over Hiromu. Yeah. And little did we know, I guess. But, man, remember, Wato has the fans behind him. I actually think here's the thing. Desperado winning this title, if that were to happen, and I don't think it will. I think Hiromu will win to get the record. Mm-hmm. But if that were to happen, it really doesn't mean that much. He's won the title a million times at this point. Wato winning it would be a huge moment, kind of like what we talked about with Umino. That would be a huge moment in his career. So I would at least be invested in that possibility of that happening. But ultimately, I don't think it matters because I think Hiromu will win. And like you said, the record, and hey, they'll have an extra month pretty much if they can get around to that Heat match or that Minoru Tanaka match.
Yes. From the timeline, it could actually happen in March. That could work out at the anniversary show.
With that lasts because right now it's the 5th of November now. You think 30 days to December 5th and then 30 days to January 5th. So that's 60 days.
It's 60 days, right. Yeah.
Yeah, so they would need 30 more days. It would have to happen by February. Yeah.
Yeah.
They've got a month after Wrestle Kingdom, more or less. If they could do it within a month, maybe they can get by it. I don't think they even care enough to do it, to be honest.
It would be fun. Maybe not. Yes. Now that's the matches basically that we have so far for Wrestle Kingdom. One more is, of course, the Junior Heavyweight Tag Team title match that was set up. The division, the tournament itself, I thought was okay. there were some really good matches. The story of it, of course, was the team of Desperado and Master Wato finding together. Eventually, in the end, Desperado finally took the T-shirt from Master Wato, and Wato was so happy about it. And they kind of became friends is too much, allies. Desperado doesn't hate him anymore, I guess, like he did in the first place. So that was a cute storyline. And another storyline of that tour, of course, was the House of Torture making it to the finals. I've said it a bunch of times. I don't need to reiterate it again. We've said it here. House of Torture in the final, meaning you want the other team to win, and that happened, and it was okay. So Catch 2-2, Francesco Akira and TJP now challenge the Warlocks for the junior tag team title at Wrestle Kingdom, which is a fine match, but nothing that really interests me in any way.
Yeah, this whole tournament was based off of gimmicks and stuff. Whether it was House of Torture or Desperado and Wato. It was somewhat amusing, I suppose, but it wasn't anything that lights my heart aflame for this division by any stretch of the imagination.
It gave the fans to hold onto something during a time that really isn't really interesting in New Japan, and it was fine for what it was. But don't tell me that this division this year has really been great, because it's not. I mean, they've established one team, because Catch 22 has been there last year already, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, they've been there last year. And this year they've established one team in the War Dogs that has actually done something. Apart from that, they have the House of Torture that just came about because Kanemaru returned, but they are not really have been a team before. Then there is Doki and Taka, who came together because Kanemaru returned.
Yeah.
So there's no real stories or any emotional connection to that. It's just teams.
What do you think the option? What's the way to make it better that they could have? Because I don't think they care enough to do that.
I don't think that I agree. And I don't think that in the current structure of their company,
exactly,
they have it to improve it, because it just comes down to the fact that Ghetto, as a career-long tag wrestler, failed to book tag teams.
Yeah. I mean, even the heavyweight division isn't good either. I mean, we're gonna talk about this.
And you think in a company that puts such a strong focus on heavyweights, the heavyweight tag division would be booked better, but that's not the case.
No, I don't know. I just think I really don't understand why things are like this, but it's been that way for so long. I mean, you go back all of the years of this junior tag league, there's nothing there to really sink your teeth into. So it's nothing against the wrestlers at all. I mean, I think TJ Perkins and Akira are a great team. They're so good as wrestlers. It's just they're not in an environment that utilizes them to the best of their strengths, unfortunately. But if they could get a division rocking, but again, the singles and the tag, it's the same issue I always bring up with the juniors. You have this period of the year for literally a third of the year, 4 months, where you're on the bench if you're a heavyweight player. You don't get any spotlight, period. It's all about the heavyweights in the G1 season. And then after that, they go on a long break. So after 3-4 months, and that's
really the thing where the problem lies, Dylan.
Yeah.
It feels so inorganic. Yeah. Because it's not like these guys are part of the company for the whole year. They get their spots in May and June. They get their spots in November. Compare that to Noah. Noah's junior division isn't the greatest either, but at least it's always there, and it's always somewhat of a focal point. We've said it off air. We both thought that the junior tag team title match at the recent show in Fukuoka was the best match on the show. You can make the claim. And they always get somewhat of a spotlight, but in New Japan, it's always 3 months of this, 3 months of this, 3 months of this. It just doesn't feel like it's really it just doesn't really feel like that's organic. It's just always set in stone.
Great point, and it's been true for all the same years as New Japan and Noah. Their problem with the junior division is who they put all of this focus on. But we've seen in years past where it was guys like Harada, Kotage, Ishimori. When those guys were around, like all the way back then, that's a long period. Obviously, way back 20 years ago to Kenta and Marufuji and all of that. From the output of this company, the juniors were a great part of the company and a huge part of the company and a great division that you had characters to sink your teeth into, great matches, spotlights. It meant something. That's always been true. It's just, unfortunately, in the last few years, it's been people that shouldn't be there, like getting all the spotlight, and that takes it down. But like you said, the same thing with the tag team. Now you've got a team that shows promise, I would say is fair, of Wolf and Bane. And they look good. Like, they had a really good match. We all liked it. All positive notes, something special. It brings something to the table that you don't get in other matches. And in New Japan, you don't get that for the exact same reasons you're talking about. But it's been that way for so long that I can't imagine them changing it. Now it seems like they're fine with it. They don't even care that much, and the heavyweights are the real stars.
And listen, people joked yesterday when I wondered what Desperado and Wato were doing at Wrestle Kingdom before Hiromu called out Desperado. And there was one reply immediately saying they are doing a 4-way. And that's so funny.
What I thought.
It's so funny because it's true. It's true every year. You always, at the end of the year, you begin to think, what kind of junior 4-way are they going to put together?
I thought the same thing as that commenter. That's exactly what I thought was going to happen. They were going to throw those two and maybe a third guy into a 4-way match. And they did give us, hey, that's one positive way of looking at this.
Sure.
Because I'll take this singles match over another 4-way in terms of match quality. Although, again, this year it was successful and helped Wato get a big moment in the Dome where the fans rallied behind him overall. So that is one way. There's positives and negatives to it, but ideally you want a big title match, a big singles match, and that hasn't been built up at all, unfortunately.
So Dylan, how about this? In the Junior Tag League, the Bullet Club War Dogs have lost to 2 teams. Kevin Knight and Kushida, and Sho and Yoshinobu Kanemaru. That's our 4-way.
There you go. But that was true even back in the glory days.
Yes.
Where, remember the Young Bucks tag title reign was notorious for these 4-way matches. So I don't know what to do to change it. It's just, it seems like we're trying to fix a problem that exists in reality but doesn't exist in Gato's mind, unfortunately. And it's hard when we're trying to talk about something that the booker himself doesn't think is a problem.
Sure.
But it should be. We're right. We're both totally justified. It's just, unfortunately, the person who could make things better doesn't agree with us. So this is where we're stuck with every week. Yeah.
Exactly, and that's not changing. I mean, usually you'd say we change around the booker, but that's not going to happen.
Oh, no. I mean, I don't know. It's interesting. We'll talk about some of these other shows, too. I have a point I was thinking about.
So one more thing on this show, actually, the undercard was not really noteworthy, except maybe for the Frontier Zone match, where the Dragon Gate guys, Mochizuki Jr., Strong Machine J, and Yoshiki Kato had a great showing, especially, of course, once again, Mochizuki Jr. He's just incredible. If you want to watch one more match of this card, you should really go out of the way to watch the Jon Moxley and Great Khan match, because by far this match surpassed any expectations. It was one of the coolest things New Japan has done in a long time, because in this match they've broken the mold. Jon Moxley came in and did his match. He was not put into the strings of a New Japan match. He had a Jon Moxley match with Great Khan, and it was great.
I 1,000,000% disagree, Strigga. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. This was a 1-minute match with a double countout. What?
I knew that you were going to go to that.
No, they restarted it. And they had this brawl match, which was a lot of fun. Like what he said was totally right. In all honesty, I think this might be Okan, like maybe his best match.
Yeah.
And Moxley's a big part of that. Another notch on his belt. I would say he did a great job. But we have to give it up.
Scissors.
He did do that, and not the acclaimed style of scissoring either. But we got to give up to Okan for being able to match up with him as well. We talked about him. I mean, look at him in the G1. There's nothing there. Name me one match he had that was good, even in the G1.
I can't.
Exactly, because there wasn't any. It's impossible to have a meaningful match. But here, this was a good match. The crowd was into it as well. I thought this felt like a big deal. You had tons of moving parts too. You had all the rookies around the ring, trying to keep things from getting too out of control. It felt like a really chaotic, old school type of match. If you go back into the 90s, like the early 90s in New Japan, you'd see stuff with guys like Goto and Ohara, like that were these wild brawls and stuff. Not like Hiroki Goto and Hajime Ohara, like the original, the Mad Dogs, Goto and Ohara, Michiyoshi. But like they had these out of control brawls that were really not done this way. Now, they've kind of gone the way of the dodo as New Japan's gone along, but Moxley brought it back here, and even in the early 2000s, they had a lot of that with like Mackay Club and stuff. You had brawls and crazy stuff going on. Here, it felt a little bit like that old school way, like where you had it. So I thought it was a great change of pace from the normal. Like you said, great point. He wasn't stuck in the normal robotic New Japan style of match. Here you had
you didn't have to do like a counter sequence like Zack Sabre Jr. and Tomohiro Ishii did.
Yeah, and I love Ishii, but like when I saw that overall. But hey, this was a really good match though. Shout out to Okan. I haven't been a big fan of his for much of his career, to be honest, but I thought he did a great job. You had Newman on the ring outside there too, the young guys. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed this match.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, do you want to transition to All Japan, or was there anything more that you want to add?
It was nice seeing Musashi get a spot in the tournament.
Yeah, sure, right.
And on this show. There weren't any real special matches that I would say. I really wanted to do some more coverage for the Patreon to get into it, but to be honest, there's just not a lot to say about these tournament matches here. But it was nice seeing him get a shot. I really enjoy what they're doing with the Frontier Zone stuff. Again, that match wasn't special or anything you have to rush to see, but still, it was just cool that they get a shot here. So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. Best moment for the Musashi and Yo team was when in Kurikan Hall they played Yo's theme, and Yo said, "Wait a second, we go back again," and they had the Michinoku Pro theme played for their entrance. That was great.
Yeah, really cool stuff.
Yes. So on the topic of Michinoku, we are going to go up far to the north of Japan for All Japan Pro Wrestling and their Giant Series 2023 Hokkaido edition. Over the course of this past week, starting on October 31st, they did 7 shows in 6 days, which is very unusual for All Japan Pro Wrestling these days. Their tours are usually very short and focused on Tokyo mainly. But now they have gone up north to Hokkaido, to the towns of Imakane, Yotsuba, Asaikawa, Bihoru, Iwamisawa, and of course Sapporo in the end. And they sold around 3,850 tickets over the course of this tour. And what I took away from this is that this was a pretty great success for the company. And we're going to talk about the final day individually. The crowds have been hot and into the action for all of these shows. I've not watched all of the shows in total, but I've watched some matches from each of these shows because I want to see the crowds. And you can make the argument that the crowd on The fourth in Iwamisawa was probably the quote-unquote worst one because they didn't really react as loudly as the others did, but there was still a good crowd. The crowd was into all of the performers. Everybody on this roster, to some degree, is over to the fans. And that's a huge accomplishment for All Japan Pro Wrestling this year. And specifically, the young guys like Ryokyu Honda and Yuma Ansai who have now come together as a tag team. Plus, Rising Hayato and Natsuki Aoyagi and Yuma Aoyagi himself. The young guys are extremely over with the fans. And for this tour, it struck me that they have a lot of young fans in attendance. You could spot a lot of kids running around the arenas, running to the guardrail, trying to get a high five with the wrestlers. Where in comparison to, we actually did not talk about the Fuminori Abe and Takuya Nomura match on this show because it just didn't happen to fit in our timeline. But of course, one of the greatest matches of the year. The must-see matches pod. They did a 1-hour show on that match, so seek that out. That was a really great show.
Yeah.
Mark made a great point on that show that the crowd for that Abe and Nomura match was very old. It was a crowd that was in their 40s. And here you had a really young crowd. And when you go to Dragon Gate crowds, you see a lot of young women in the crowd too. And that's a sign of a company that is, I don't know if the term healthy in terms of All Japan Pro Wrestling is necessarily the right term, but it's a sign of a company that is able to read the signs of the time. If you attract young customers and if your fan base is not in the mid-40s. So that's a great sign for All Japan Pro Wrestling. The crowds were usually in the range of 400 to 600, which is good for house shows. New Japan sometimes have house shows that are lower than 600s, even on the Super Junior Tag League Tour. So overall, I think you can say that this entire tour has been a big success for the company.
I think that we all knew the key to success in Japanese pro wrestling is to book Kumagoro Hokai on all of your shows, yes. And you will get big numbers. It's proven. The data tells us it. Are you going to argue with data? Are you going to be stuck in the past? Or are you going to look at data?
Yes. Kumagoro Hokai, the former Black the Giant in Just Tap Out, and the former Brute Issei, who had his debut match against Zuwama in 2006. And he got to team with Zuwama once again on this tour. It was his first All Japan tour since 2007 when he left the company. And he was
here last year, right? Didn't he come in last year?
It was only 2 shows, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was his first full tour.
And his first full tour as the Black Bear.
Yes. So he's like a bear in a giant black jumpsuit, and he's making bear noises. And he has a fish.
Yes. Kumagoro is literally black bear.
Yeah.
They're Japanese. So, hey, this guy, he's a worker through and through. He knows what to do with his audience, and he knew that Black Mensare was the one that he needed to take on first when he came in there, as we all would, I think. And then he continued on. He was on the whole tour, and also Fuminori Abe as well, who he teamed with on the show today.
Listen, having Fuminori Abe on your tour is always a great sign because he had a lot of cool matches on this tour.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, what'd you think of Gresham?
Gresham. I mean, I liked what he did. I think he fit in pretty well. It was the first time that he was in All Japan, but I thought he immediately had a connection to the crowd, and the crowd took well to him.
And he's a perfect fit stylistically for the division. I mean, he put him in there with guys like Abe, Sato, people like that. They had a triple threat at the start of the tour as well. His first match, he was teaming with Omori and Suzuki. They used him right, built to a big title match at the end. put over Lindemann in there. And, hey, I like Gresham a lot. I thought he really fit in well. I think he's a really talented wrestler. And I think he'd be a guy that if they have room for him on these tours, why not? I'm sure he enjoyed it too and had fun.
Oh, yeah. Judging from his Twitter, he really had a good time there.
Yeah, I think he'd be welcomed back by the fans and the company, and he made a good impression as well for his in-ring work. So I really liked Gresham on this tour, seeing him in there. And
should have worked with Kumagoro Hawkeye.
That was the one thing he missed most, I would say, on the tour. If he could have done that, we all wish we could work with Kumagori Hawkeye, though, as well.
Definitely.
It's not just him. That's the one regret I truly have. I wish that me and Kumagoro could go at it.
Yeah, he gave out sweets to Zuwama and Dentamura after the 6-man tag match. What a guy.
What a guy. Love that brother right now.
Yes.
Yeah, they had him in there. They brought in this guy, Shota Stevens.
Yes,
here.
Sidney Shota Stevens, yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea who this was, to be honest with you. But, hey, somehow he's found his way to All Japan here. And he's a guy that is in Japan all the time, too.
Yeah,
so,
he is. He's working for the same company that Kumagoro Hawkeye is also working for. That's Hokuto Pro Wrestling.
Yeah.
It's a indie company from the Hokuto region, from the Hokkaido region.
That's right. But it just shows and this is another thing. This is something we can trace back to from years now. All Japan running outside of the Tokyo area to these smaller shows, bringing in local talents that will be good things for them. It maybe not, be a huge seller or anything, but hey, if you could get 30 to 40 to 50 more people on these shows by having the local guys come in, word of mouth spread, that's worth it in the end.
It's been proven right this entire year. You've been making this point with All Japan the entire year, bringing wrestling to other areas but Tokyo is a selling point, and All Japan has seen that. And I think that this is a blueprint for more of these tours that they should do. For example, like you've said it, they've brought in the local guys here. They've brought in Noriyuki Yoshida, who was a NOAH trainee back in the day, but didn't make the debut for them and eventually became an indie wrestler in his home region. They brought in Tomoya, another wrestler from the region, and it's those wrestlers that help promote these tour shows. Noriyuki Yoshida also wrestles on some NOAH shows when they are up north, so they are basically the local promoters for All Japan here, and that's why. Well, that's part of the reason why they get booked on these shows. And you could, for example, say we do a 5 to 6 day tour in Okinawa, and we team up with Ryukyu Dragon Pro Wrestling, and we have Gurkhan Mask and his crew be the promoters, the local promoters. Or you go to the Kyushu region and partner up with Kyushu Pro Wrestling. You can partner up with Osaka if you want to in the region, in the Kansai region there. So there's lots of opportunities to go to these other regions, but Tokyo.
Absolutely. And hey, let's call a spade on top of that. And it came true on this show as well. Another record-setting run here for Aoyagi. The highest attended title match here. We saw it earlier in the year with Omori as well. That was the first ever title match in that region or in that building. They've done great numbers all throughout the time with him as champion. And I said it on Twitter. I think he's really an underrated player when it comes to the MVP Wrestler of the Year vote.
I thought so too, yeah.
Because the thing is, we talked about it in the last episode. His match with Kento was an awesome match. Yeah. Great match. But everyone really pointed to Kento more after that. And I have an overall point that I will get to in a little bit when we talk about the Nakajima match. But everyone was pointing to Kento. But if you look at Yuma's run, if you just compare Kento's run versus Yuma's run this year in All Japan, I really think Yuma's had an actually better year and been more vital to the company at the top. Now, Kento has the Nakajima match, which was an automatic sellout and a huge deal for Noah, and a match that everyone loves and thinks is a match of the year level match. Obviously, that matters. But I think if you look at the overall grand scheme of the year, Yuma has to be at least on equal footing with him. It should be an equal race between them and not so much on Kento, who's had a fantastic year, nothing against him at all. I just think Yuma deserves a lot of credit. When you look at these numbers, you look at these matches that he keeps having,
Yep.
I mean, man, this guy's had a fantastic year.
I think his matches have a wider range than the matches that Kento Miyahara does, because he has his formula that works so well. Of course, yes, the formula is great and it works. But Yuma Aoyagi's matches, they are not so patterned like Kento Miyahara, and I really think that this Triple Crown run has done a lot for him and his perception amongst the All Japan Pro Wrestling fans. He is now one of the cornerstones of this company. He had been one before, but now he is one of the crucial players in this company. And we've seen that here on this tour too, that he had singles matches, for example, with Ren Ayabe, who you'd think is going to be the newest signee in early January, because he's been featured a lot in All Japan this year. Pinned the tag champion now. And that's Yuma's role as well. He's getting the matches with these guys. So, yeah, the title run has done great things for him.
For him and the company as a whole, in my opinion. So, a lot of good things with All Japan right now going on.
So let's now go to this title match that they did. Katsuhiko Nakajima defeating Yuma Aoyagi, 24 minutes, 16 seconds. Right now, with some ratings already. I've only entered it a couple of hours ago into the database, and all of the ratings that we have are 10 out of 10 ratings for this match. And I can say that I loved it throughout. But before we go to the match, Dylan, let's talk about how this match came about. Last show we talked about the October 21st All Japan show, where Nakajima burst on the scene, threw the bouquet at Kento Miyahara, and then backstage said that he had no interest in wrestling in All Japan Pro Wrestling and went away. And that's the last show they had before they went to this Hokkaido tour. And in between that, you really were left wondering what the title match was going to be for the Hokkaido show that eventually was Nakajima versus Yuma Aoyagi. And I've said it on the last show, they had this out with Jun Saito, who pinned Yuma Aoyagi to win the tag team title on October 9. So they had that in their back pocket, and they could do the title match. Then, on October 31st, All Japan uploads this video of this goofy Halloween party with two people, one of them being the president, dressed as Luigi. And Katsuhiko Nakajima comes in and demands a title match against Yuma Aoyagi on November 5th. And the complete build-up of this match was done through, at first, social media on the All Japan side, and then Tokyo Sports. And by the way, you could never do something like that in America. You could never, no company would go to wrestling media and say, okay, yeah, we have this dude, please write an article, and we build up this match for our show. No company would do that. They would do that on television. But All Japan didn't have any more shows before that title match. The point I'm going to is, I am somewhat certain that this title match only came about in the last couple of weeks. And it came about to the point that Nakajima now won the title, and that he is probably going to drop it to Kento Miyahara on December 31st, because I'm guessing that Nakajima has something else to do on January 4. But the timeline of it is very interesting, because it came about in a weird fashion that few title matches come about in Japanese wrestling.
Yeah. Now, here's something I was thinking about when I was watching this all play out. I didn't really mention it last episode because I wanted to see where this is going. They hadn't even announced the match by the time we did our last episode last time.
Exactly, yeah.
Like you said, this did come up very fast, at least in terms of promotional tactics. But when it got announced, it was clear to me that this is not basically what I thought originally, that this is not going to be a very long run in All Japan. And they're wanting to get everything they can out of the way as fast as they can to be sure they can do it. They have a big show that's conveniently planned during this time. So it really makes sense when you think about it on that level. In terms of when it happened, again, another point, ever since we saw All Japan and Noah get really close this year, and then the Nakajima and Kento match happened, and nothing came of that. Nakajima left, and we can presume that relationship is on ice at the moment. When did it all come about? Did they know then? When did he tell Noah he was going? When did he even know that he was going? It's all questions that we can't really have a definitive answer to, but we just know that this all got... What we can say for sure is that this title match got put together really fast.
Yeah.
Overall. And what I was going to say, and I'm going to praise this match that we're getting to for sure, in terms of in-ring quality. You know, Yuma beating Kento for the Triple Crown was such a big deal in his career arc and his career path and everything they built up with him. And it basically got completely overshadowed right away by Nakajima.
Yeah.
Nobody was talking about Yuma beating Kento for the first time for the Triple Crown. It was all about Nakajima coming in to beat Kento. And then immediately Nakajima also beats Yuma, just beats him outright for the title and ends his title reign. Do you think that's a bad thing? That things just got moved, like he basically got shuffled aside as soon as they could do this, more or less.
Yeah, I don't think it will be detrimental to him because A, he got the win over Kento Miyahara, and B, this title match really gave Yuma Aoyagi a lot of offense. It was not like Nakajima just came in and just squashed the guy. Yuma Aoyagi got a lot of action here, and he even got to kick out of the vertical spike of Nakajima's finishing move. So I see your point, but I once again want to go back to losses in Japanese wrestling, and I think that can be a very good part of Yuma Aoyagi's character arc. That in this situation here, with these three guys, he was able to beat Kento Miyahara, but never got the chance to beat Katsuhiko Nakajima or to get his win back against Nakajima. Maybe that can be a storyline for a couple of years down the line. Who knows how long Nakajima will be in, presumably, New Japan Pro Wrestling. Maybe Yuma Aoyagi will eventually get his win back. But I think it can be good for the character development that, yes, this year has been very successful for him, and he has lined up a lot of great wins, but this one will be always a blemish on his career. I think that can be even more helpful than another win.
I think that's rolling the dice a little bit on a guy who has had one match in his whole career where he was actually a draw in Nakajima. And this show did good, but I really don't credit Nakajima with that as much as Aoyagi, in my opinion. I don't think Nakajima's a draw or super special outside of this very particular situation with Kento. And we'll see how that plays out.
I don't think that another title match would have done as well as this one did. But that's speculation, of course.
Yeah, it just depends on who it was overall, but I don't think Nakajima's a draw. He has no history of that.
That's correct.
As champion. I think Kento was the draw on the Noah show. I think if Nakajima had faced anybody else besides Kento, that wouldn't have done anything nearly close to that.
That is correct. But what's your take on Yuma Aoyagi now that you've asked me?
I think that... First of all, I think he's not getting his run back. I think that's a lot to ask for or think about. Like, oh, maybe in a few years he'll come back. I mean, anything could happen, of course. So that's just the nature of wrestling. But I don't think that should be thought about in this particular situation. I think anyway, again, just looking at it as an analyst, as a fan, it's more interesting for Nakajima to win the title right now and have the match with Kento. Because if Yuma had won, there's no real match that would be as interesting as that one on the 31st.
Right.
But I also don't like how overshadowed he was and kind of just brushed off to the side, as I said, almost immediately after what should be a major moment. I feel the same way as I did. Remember when he won the Champion Carnival over Jake?
Mm-hmm.
When it happened, that was an epic moment. Amazing match. Everyone loved it. And then they just did the title match in 2 weeks, and it was all but forgotten about afterwards. It was still meaningful. It's not like it doesn't mean anything, but it's not as great as it could have been if they had actually made it into a bigger thing for him to get the title shot. And obviously they had Suwama in mind for the Big Budokan show that year, although I still disagree with that. But still, this I don't really disagree with because you do have a particular match you're going for.
Yeah. I see your point. Still, though, I think you can say that Yuma Aoyagi was the victim of the circumstances right now.
Yeah, true. Again, I might have done the same thing.
I was just going to say I would have done the same thing because the time window of getting Katsuhiko Nakajima and to doing the rematch with Miyahara was so slim that they really had no choice.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm not really faulting them. I just think it's an unfortunate circumstance. And it's one that it's a point nobody even brought up because they cared so little about it. It was like they're so focused on Nakajima and Kento that it's something I didn't even see anyone talk about. And I think that's a real shame for what a guy who, again, he's been such a great champion, and I think he should be up there. And I mean, hey, we'll have the data. We have the end of the year awards we're going to have at the end of the year. And we'll see if the voters ride with him, maybe I'll change my opinion at the end of the day, that at least in the English-speaking audience. But for me, it feels like there's a lot less heat on him as the top guy as Kento, and people are just interested who maybe they were Wrestle Universe subscribers and they know Nakajima and they're a fan of him and Noah. And they're tuning into All Japan as well, which could be a great thing for All Japan as well to get a few more things. I'd like this. Again, I'm not putting this down completely. I'm just raising the question of this, and I don't really like how fast he was put aside, but I don't think it's like the death knell in his career or anything. I still think he was elevated. I still think he was elevated. Everything you said was basically true. I just think it pushed him back a little bit, and it's not as great as it could have been. If they had, again, we don't know who this could have been. Let's say they had a major match that could have been a first-time title match for Yoyogi, and then you had Kento and Nakajima on the undercard. I think that would have been better, but also you don't have the luxury of just putting together a big match for Yuma right away. You have to actually work for that. And I think this is the easiest and cleanest path to what you want to accomplish. Nakajima versus Kento for the title. Kento wins the title, and you move on from there, and we'll see what happens next year. You'll still have Ashino in the background as well. Around that time next year, Champion Carnival, who knows what could happen. So, it's, again, I'm not completely trashing it. I just think that it could have been done a little bit better instead of just immediately. I think that's what I would have changed, actually. I would have had Yuma get his moment. Maybe Kento shakes his hand, something like that. Kind of what we talked about with Umino earlier, except he won. Like, he gets a huge moment, finally beating Kento. And then at a show later, he attacks Kento. Obviously, they told the story of, hey, I came to celebrate you because I thought you were going to win, but then you lost. You can't really do that then, but I don't care. I think it would have been better that way, actually. And you could have set up Yuma as maybe even, that being a kind of a one-upsmanship story that they didn't really have. There just wasn't enough time to really go into it, but you actually had a lot of interesting paths you could go along with. Hey, Yuma beats Kento's lifelong rival before Kento does. I think that would be another notch to put him over the top if they wanted to do it, but they just didn't have time to really do it. That's
ultimately it. They just didn't have the time to tell that story, and that's going back to what I said about building up the title match through Tokyo Sports.
Yeah,
you didn't even have shows to build that up with a preview tag or anything like that. They just didn't have the time.
Yeah, what you said is totally right, ultimately. Yuma was a victim of circumstance in this particular scenario, and I hope that they can get back to something cool with him later on. And I'm sure, and like you said, clearly in the hierarchy of All Japan, I think to any fan of All Japan's right now, Kento is still the guy, but Yuma's right. Like, he's like the 1B.
Yeah, he got the closest to anyone in the last couple of years.
And it was needed. Like, they needed to hit on this. It didn't really pan out with Jake, and Nomura got injured a bunch, unfortunately. And hopefully he can still get back one day, and maybe you'll see what you can do with him down the line. But for right now, they needed Yuma to be a success. And he was like, his title run was absolutely fantastic in all aspects, but none more so than the in-ring quality, in my opinion, because I thought this match with Nakajima was an absolutely phenomenal performance from Yuma.
Yes.
And Nakajima really brought it as well. I just love him in All Japan. He brings such a distinct vibe from all of the other, people in the company.
Yeah. He came into this match, and right off the bat, he kills Yuma Aoyagi with his kicks. There was such a great beginning to the match because the champion was immediately put off guard and he had to fight his way back into the match, which Aoyagi did. He was striking back to Nakajima on the outside, hit some very, very hard blows to Nakajima, for example, the Fisherman Buster on the ring apron, the DDT on the outside. Then they went to a situation where they were just Nakajima hit this great-looking German right on Aoyagi's head. Aoyagi came back straight away in this no-selling sequence, hitting the...
This is my King's Road, baby!
Yes, exactly! Yes! Came back with another German on Aoyagi. They were right there with one another. It was so well built. Then Nakajima just batters him with more kicks and kicks and kicks. Like I said, Aoyagi got a kick out of the vertical spike in a huge, huge moment for him. And Nakajima had to scramble. What the hell am I going to do? And Dylan, he then saw the one fan sitting front row with the Kensuke office banner. And he hits the Northern Lights bomb. Kensuke Sasaki's Northern Lights bomb to win the Triple Crown. To win 2 out of the 3 titles that his dad has already won in his career. Nakajima is right here, and one title is... he can't win the one because that's been retired, but he could still win an IWGP title. But
maybe that's the title they'll bring back for Finlay, is the old IWGP heavyweight title.
Yes! But yes, just from a storytelling perspective, built up great spots throughout the match. I was in awe watching this match.
Man, this match killed it. It was such a good, great run between these two. Great chemistry right off the bat. Like I said, the way Nakajima carries himself is so good.
Have they ever wrestled before?
I don't think so. Because remember, Noah and All Japan never would have been together before this past year or two to be able to do anything. And they weren't really interacting at any point. No, they must have been in the Muto match, the 6-man match together.
Yeah. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was very minor. Like at the end of the day, no singles matches for sure. Very minor role there. And it was mainly
it was actually that one match. Yeah.
Yeah. They got great chemistry right off the bat. It felt like they'd wrestled a million times the way they did it. Yuma is a great champion, and not just in terms of wrestling, but he's another guy that he carries himself in such a vastly different way to Nakajima or even a Kento. But he's got different elements to him that really appeals to me just as a character, because he's got this dickish side to him that Kento also has, but it's not as pronounced. And he's also got this earnest babyface fire at the same time that he's always had, even back to when he was a junior. Remember his series versus Taichi?
Oh yeah,
he was a great underdog, wholesome guy. But as he's grown, he's gotten a real attitude about him. To where he's just got a great combination of traits from a character perspective. He has a great size to him, great look. He's a really good champion in terms of everything you want from an in-ring look, charisma. He's got it all, and I thought he utilized it all here. And like you said, Nakajima, the kicks he was hitting him with were so strong, especially in the All Japan setting where there's not a lot of guys who wrestle like him in the company. In Noah, you can always point to, him and Keno will have this kick battle, or something like that. In All Japan, there's nobody like that for him to really pair off with. So I think it's really good that they put him here, and he handled it really well. And let's just say, for the record, Akira Hokuto's Northern Lights bomb, first and foremost, before
that's correct. Yeah.
But Kensuke took it later on because it's just hey, if you marry somebody, you got to do their moves at the same time. You can't just leave it. I'm a sucker for wrestling romance, but that has to be number one. If you're with somebody, you got to use her moves. And she also did some of his moves as well. So later on, once they got together. So, but Nakajima used it. It was great. And yeah, this match was just freaking awesome. Right up there with the. I think it was right up there with the Kento match. Really.
I thought it was better.
Yeah, I think it's right up there. Again, I'd have to think about it. Now that you think about it, I think there was this got more of a singular spotlight on it because, again, unfortunately, as great as that match was, everyone was really talking about Nakajima and Kento at the end of it more so than the match. Here, the focus was on the match and where they would go for it. So I think I could buy that as well. I think you're on a good take there. You're spitting, Strigga.
Spitting, yes. I really love this match. I thought they both invested so much. And again, I want to stress that again. Nakajima did not come in to work a light match and to just take the title. He took some hard bumps in this match. So he was in.
Absolutely. Yeah, he deserves a lot of credit for his, again, whatever you want to say about his drawing power or whatever, you can't argue his in-ring work in Noah right now. I mean, just look at this year. The match with Kento was an amazing emotional match that he was able to really work in an expert way. And now this one as well. If you put him in the right spots, you can see him do things. And even that spot with the Northern Lights Bomb was not dissimilar to the match he had with Go on the New Year's show a few years ago. This obviously was more pronounced with the big win at the end. And, and they tried to link it to Misawa. The commentary didn't really link it enough to Sasaki when we talked about that, I remember. But here, obviously, we don't have commentary, so we don't have to worry about it overall. But we just kind of know our own. But it was really well done. Great match. Fantastic stuff. One of the best matches of the whole year in All Japan. You got to watch it if you're listening to this. Find some way. Check it out. And the Yuma Kento match last month, I would definitely put up there as well. Maybe you like this one better. No argument from me. I probably agree with you, actually. But still, watch both of them. Watch all of Yuma's matches. Again, even the ones that were less pronounced. I thought he did some great work with Honda in there. That was a great match. Omori was one of Omori's best matches ever. Suwama delivered great drawing power. Again, really, really on this Yuma Aoyagi MVP kick right now as we go along. I'm gunning
Make
for
a
it.
case for the guy. Why not?
I think he's got a great one. And
got a case.
On top of it, let's not forget too, 3 great tag teams this year. I made this point on Twitter. You had the first one with Naoya. Had one of the best matches of the year, too, in the tag match versus Takuya and Kento. Yep. He had the team with Kento, obviously. Had some great matches with him. And the team with his brother, the Tenru Project tag team champions as well. So we cannot discredit that. And he also, too, had nothing to do with the title. But him and Atsuki had a great match in May as well against each other, which was really cool. So good stuff all around with Yuma. Really loved his run. Think he deserves a lot of credit. But, hey, Nakajima, this is another good chance for him. Like I said, his Noah run definitely was not super well received, mainly because they jobbed him out to Vegeta in a humiliating fashion. But now he's got a chance to kind of redeem himself because if you get a big match, this show did a very good number. Again, I really put it on Aoyagi and the company as a whole more than any one person like him. But the Yoyogi show, the spotlight's going to be on him and Kento.
Yes.
Can they bring a big number here, and even bigger than the one they had in September? I think they can.
I think they can, yes.
I think they will. Remember, that show wasn't that well promoted when you think about it.
No.
The one in September. This one will be, clearly. Whatever criticisms we have about
I don't think they need anything else.
Exactly. Whatever criticism we have about Aoyagi and Nakajima, they won't apply to Kento and Nakajima because this show, it's almost 2 months away. They've got all the anticipated mounting. You've got the Real World Tag League.
Exactly. 2 tournaments going on at the same time, the Real World Tag League and the Junior Battle of Glory. That's going to happen. They've got plenty of time to build that up well.
I was surprised that they didn't put Nakajima. Maybe he doesn't want to work it, to be honest with you. But they had an obvious pairing with him and Omori, which I think would have worked great together. But they washed that away.
I wouldn't rule that out, like I said. When Nakajima threw the bouquet at Miyahara, he was cited afterwards with the words, "I have no interest in All Japan." Yeah. And he said the exact same thing. When Omori requested him to be the partner in the tag league, Nakajima once again said he had no interest. He lied once.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he lie twice?
You can't trust this guy. Like I said, we've established many times that wrestlers they just cannot lie. They're just angels of honesty.
Incapable of lying.
Exactly. So this is clearly not 100% fact, but
I would say that this is going to be a team in the tag league.
I think it makes sense. Like who else would it be at this point?
Yeah.
You could use it to. They're going to have that big match, those two versus Kento and Yuma.
Exactly.
Yeah. Great way to build it up. Who takes the fall and who wins in that match?
And it wouldn't make any sense because Omori has a tag team partner, Minoru Suzuki. They challenged for the tag team title.
That's true. Multiple times. Sure.
Yeah, just today, actually.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And they still don't have a name, this group.
Yes.
Put Nakajima in this damn group and name it something. I don't care what you name it. Name it the fucking Hungry Wolves. I don't care. Like, just put something together. Name this group. It's irritating the crap out of me, STRIGGA. I've hated this from the beginning. Why didn't they name it when they have a chance?
No idea. Naoki Doi is in this group too. They just don't have a name.
He counts. Like they could be all together. It's fine. Come on, do something. Just call it something. Like something. I don't care.
Yeah. Well,
that's a good idea, though, having him in on board. I think it would be a great build-up for the match.
One more thing, also going back to the Real World Tag League, we've talked about that on our last show already with all the teams. The semi-main of this show, of course, Aoyagi and Nakajima got the big attention here, but make sure to check out the semi-main. Kento Miyahara and T-Hawk teamed up. Yeah, 18 minutes. Man, T-Hawk in All Japan is built differently from T-Hawk in Great. It's night and day, actually. The guy has so much energy whenever he enters All Japan Pro Wrestling. And on the other side, you had Honda and Anzai, who bring a lot of energy to begin with. So this match was just all action throughout for 18 minutes. We said it, Honda and Anzai would make total sense to win the Real World Tag League and to maybe become champions. And
absolutely.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, totally. Again, you're spitting, STRIGGA. This match totally deserves a watch. I would put it at over 4 stars. The tag. Again, I love T-Hawk, man. This guy is a great wrestler. Another one that's kind of underrated, I think. The problem is he's the face of a company which is insane. You know, it's straight cheeks. There's nothing about it that you want to watch. Unfortunately, that drags his reputation down when he's actually great. Even in a lot of his matches in the company have been good. I mean, the match with Ishida was one of the best matches of the whole year earlier this year. And he's had nothing but good stuff in terms of in-ring. In the Champion Carnival, he was a great guy, one of the most consistent dudes. Outside of the Cyrus match, which was one of the worst matches of the year, and the Champion Carnival. Great ending with Ashino. It drew well, too. That got a big number at the end. Had a really good match with Nagata. Not super special, but still a good match. And then you get tag matches, which he always shows up in. And I actually think him and Kento have a great, like, again, kind of how I mentioned with Yuma, that he's got this dickish side, but not as pronounced as Kento. T-Hawk's dickish side is as pronounced as Kento. So they actually work really well together in terms of charisma, and the way they work is really good. Like you said, and Anzai, I've sung this guy's praises all year, and he only continues to grow. He's another guy I think is underrated. Maybe not an MVP. He hasn't been pushed at that level, to be honest, to carry a company. MVP. But in terms of an in-ring, like most outstanding wrestler, like best in-ring wrestler, I still think he should be up there. Like, there's nobody to me that is as consistently good in every single match he has that he is. Like, I think he's one of the standout players in any company in the ring this year. And once again, and him and Honda, they definitely hit on something with them as a team. They're doing very fun videos on Twitter as well. If you go to Anzai's Twitter page, you're seeing them goof around in public, riding bikes and doing crazy stuff. It's such a fun time with them. They're a great team.
And Honda is so over too, you know. It's just,
he's another guy that they've elevated. Another guy. This company has elevated multiple people, and these two are at the top of that list that got up there. They've done a great job with him. You know, like you said, very over with the crowd. I've always respected his work. He had that weird heel run earlier in the year, but it didn't last that long. He's back to normal now, outside of the hair. But the wrestling is still good now, so I'm cool with it. Whatever he wants to wear his hair like is fine, as long as he wrestles good. Very charismatic, and a great pairing with Anzai. I think they have really good chemistry. I felt the same way with Honda and Ashino as well, that I thought they had a ton of potential to be like you don't want to flow around the word legendary that easy, but I felt like they could have been like a really cornerstone, like main event level as a tag team type of player. I think you could get there with these two as well if they want to go with it all the way. And like you said, I think they have to be considered the favorites to win the Real World Tag League this year.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, check out this All Japan tour from Hokkaido. It's a really fun watch. Shows are not blow-away shows, but they are usually in the 2-hour range. You can pick and choose some of those matches. Like look for the matches that involve Yuma. Look out for the matches that involve the juniors with Rising Hayato, Atsuki Aoyagi, Fuminori Abe. You can't make any mistakes there.
And what you said is true earlier, too. That's something I said before as well. Compare this crowd to the Noah crowd.
Yeah.
And it's been true all year. These crowds love All Japan.
Yep.
Like if they're going to a show, they're here to have fun. They're having a great time. They love what they're seeing. The action's getting to them. The fans really help the shows and make them seem cooler.
And I've made this point on Twitter last week that got a lot of traction, actually, in regards of the Fight Forever chant. When I see American crowds,
you were right,
these days,
by the way. You were totally right with your
Thank
point.
you.
Go on.
When you see American crowds these days, a lot of what they do seems robotic. They just repeat the same chants all over again. You feel like when you see an AEW show, there's like 50 people chanting the same chant over and over again. And in contrast to that, you have this crowd that just reacts organically to what the wrestlers present them on this tour. And that's, once again, the sign of a company that does a lot of things right.
Absolutely. That to me is the number one thing. Like, it's one thing to get fans, and we've seen companies do that, and things come and go pretty much. But when you can draw really passionate fans about your product, that says a little bit extra to me and shows me you're definitely on the right track. Because there's been times where there was good attendance in All Japan or in any different company, really. But it didn't have what they have right now with their crowds. And again, it's not just recent. It's been that way for months now. These crowds care about All Japan, and that's where you know you're striking gold. And I think they've done a great job cultivating that attendance.
Absolutely. Now that you've talked about Pro Wrestling NOAH, let's just quickly go to their show from last weekend, the end of October. Keno, once again, is the GHC heavyweight champion. He beat Jake Lee. Jake Lee had a very good run this year with the title, had many great matches. You've shouted that out here on this show. What did you think about the Keno and Jake Lee match?
There was a brief period of it when it was really good and exciting.
Yep.
Surrounded by 20 minutes of really boring work by Jake Lee on top, and then a finish that totally killed whatever excitement there could be.
It was very flat.
The thing is, and this is going to be a talking point with something else about Noah, the finish made perfect sense with the story they were telling up to this. The whole point of this match was Keno was learning MMA. Maybe he struggled at early on. Much like me, there was no losing, only learning. But for him, he continued. He didn't quit like I did. He continued on to where he could learn this Keno special. And it made perfect sense in the story. The problem is, it sucked. So it doesn't matter if it was a well-toned story because it totally killed the match. It was a flat finish, as you said. So, yeah, this match wasn't a great match at all. It wasn't even that good, to be honest with you. There was points in it that it was really good, but mainly not a great title reign, which is kind of the story of Jake's title reign, to be honest with you. It's like there was good parts, but it was mainly a miss, is kind of how I would categorize it, especially when you see this attendance here.
Oh, yeah, and that's the part where Noah is really struggling. We've said it before. They have so many people on their roster, and then they draw these crowds. It just can't be in any way, shape, or form be substantial to the company. It just can't.
No, I mean the thing, and it's kind of what I said last week. It's clear that for whatever reason, it doesn't make any sense logically, but for whatever reason, they don't care about how much money they lose.
Exactly.
Or else this wouldn't be happening. Like these sorts of things. And on top of it, they could have easily just ran a smaller building if they wanted to, probably save a lot of money from not booking this damn thing, and probably had a hotter crowd by the end of it. But unfortunately, you come in with this huge building, you're drawing not a lot to it, it looks bad, the crowd's not hot, and the match is flat at the end. So I don't know what they gained from it other than just some strange, like, prestige they feel, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah,
But it was a bad number, like really bad.
It was, yeah.
Worse than New Japan's at that last month's show.
Yeah, but still, though, there was a good match between El Hielo Dr. Wagner Jr. and Jack Morris. Jack Morris is the new GHC national champion, double champion now. He's also the tag champion with Anthony Green. They defended the titles against Kato Kiyomiya and Rohoi Oiwa this past week, too. But the week before, Jack Morris defeated Wagner Jr. in a good match, and I think they have great chemistry, these two. I think that Jack Morris, from the get-go, he was one that really wanted this to happen. He took this shot that few would have thought that he would ever get, because remember, really, we didn't know anything about the guy when he came in first in Noah, but he's made it work for him. And you can say that now, with his 2 titles, he is at the high point of his career, and I'm really looking forward to what he's able to accomplish down the line.
This is another one where I thought that it started off kind of boring, in my opinion, but they really got it together by the end. And you even had Morris doing the moonsault to the outside. He was breaking out some high-flying stuff. He's really grown a lot. I guess you could make that case about both of these guys, that they've both grown a lot in the last year. And it makes sense of them kind of being this cool, natural pairing in a weird way, because I think they've really both been guys that they've invested in. And Wagner especially is very great. The crowd loves him, and how could you not? He's been a great worker all year, put a ton of heart and passion into this title reign. I wouldn't say this was among his best matches, but it was definitely good by the end. The title change was interesting. I didn't really expect it. I thought that they might lose the tag titles to Oiwa and Kaito, actually. But what were you going to say?
No, I'm just I'm guessing that Wagner has some other stuff to do early next year. Because
in Germany.
Yeah, he was added to the 16-karat gold tournament. So this might be a sign of him not going away from Pro Wrestling Noah, but not investing as much time as he used to do in Japan right now.
Yeah, we know his contract's coming up in December. This is definitely a sign they haven't re-signed him yet, which I think is something they should work on with all of these.
Definitely should.
Yeah, with all of these guys they seem to want to bring in that don't mean a lot. I think he's a guy you would want to. Yeah, exactly. But listen, I'm not in charge of Noah, so I can't make these calls. But I definitely think
it's better for your sanity, to be quite honest.
If they have any sense, they'll re-sign him. But like you said, this title change makes it seem like, again, maybe not a goodbye forever, but definitely for now. Hopefully they get around to him having a title shot. I still think there's a great story. I think he would have been a better choice, actually, than who they went with the Aoyagi show. But who am I to argue with themselves?
Yeah. We've said it. Wagner would have been a choice. But their choice now for their big show in January is Manabu Soya. How about that match?
Well, it was a surprise, at least.
Yeah. Cut to the chase.
I don't think
this is not a big match.
No.
It's great for Soya, and I'm really happy for the guy that he's getting this opportunity, because he's been working hard all year, and I'm a fan of his work. But this is not a big main event that you want to put on this big show.
I think this kills your argument for him as most underrated year in the world.
Now.
He's only the main event of the biggest show in the company. Sure. So, but no, and I think he was underrated earlier in the year.
Yeah.
But I think everybody realized that he was doing great work, especially the team with Keno is where the switch really got flipped. And the thing is, let's say Wagner's off the table, who we both would have picked. Besides that, who would have been the better option than Soya? This is kind of what I was saying about the New Japan Desperado match. Who was the better option than him? Because this is a good story, Just with a guy who shouldn't main event. If this was on any other show, I'd be totally in favor of this title match. Mm-hmm. But because it's Aoyagi, the biggest show of your company of the year, what are you doing? Like this is like no, like no, this is not a big match, like you said. It's not big enough for this. It could have been big. They could have built it to a big match, relatively speaking, but not the biggest show of the year. But besides that, who would you have picked besides Soya?
Yeah, the one guy that comes to mind is Kaito Kiyomiya.
I think Soya is above Kiyomiya right now.
Right now, that's exactly it, because the guy would be Kiyomiya, but right now he's not in the position to be at the top.
You know, I was in favor of this Kaito and Oiwa tag team, like when they first announced it. And obviously their wrestling is good, both of them, but seeing it in action. I mean, on this show, he was a second match dude. Like they were the second match together. Now that we've done this for a month or plus, and we've got to the title match, and they didn't win the titles, I actually think it makes Kaito not look good. Like, you know, ultimately, he seems like such a he's a guy. Like, he's just a guy on this roster right now, mid card at best. I don't think he's anywhere close to a main event spot right now. I think he's got a long way to go before they get back. I really think that Okada stuff and the New Japan run
I agree.
did a ton of damage.
Yep.
And I think he's lower than he's ever been.
And I don't think that people realize how much damage it did to him.
No, people argued it for a long time. But the thing is, if you look at these shows, Oiwa has gotten much more spotlight than Kaito in these matches. And you look at them together, and Kaito just fades a little bit. Like, you know, he doesn't have the star power that you would want from a main event player, that even a Keno would have, and even a Nakajima when he was in undercard matches. I don't know, man. I think Kaito, I said it from the beginning. When that Okada-Kaito match happened at the Muto show, he was dead. Like, he was dead in the water to me, like, as a champion and main event player, and it's not gotten any better as the years gone along. If anything, it's gotten even worse somehow. And I think he's really far away. I wouldn't put him in the top 10 contenders of the title right now in a company that doesn't really have a lot.
Yeah, who else is there?
Soya, Go, Marufuji, Sugiura, Hideki.
Yep.
Yeah, Jack Morris. Yeah, and I can keep going on if you want. But I would put all of those guys and more above him.
Half of that are guys that are old.
When has that stopped Noah before?
Yeah, no, of course, but I'm just saying, they don't have any new guys.
Well, look at Nakajima's. Look at his match.
Yeah.
Who did they choose to beat him on the way out?
I know.
And by the way, that was a good match. Don't get me wrong.
It was good.
I really enjoyed it. It was right up there with Junior Tag. Like, I thought both of them were like really good matches. But for an ending of your story in Noah, this was not anywhere near what it should have been.
No.
Like, Go made this the best he could with his emotions, which were probably real. Like, with the tears that he shed was very emotional. But in terms of there was no big ceremony. It didn't feel special. There was no big, thing with the locker room. There was nothing about this that made it feel like a big deal that this man is leaving. And it's a shame. And that's it. And then you wonder why he didn't draw, like, all of those times when you see stuff like this. And then look at the next generation. As I said, they could have used this. Why didn't Kaito pin Nakajima on the way out to at least give him some momentum going forward? Or put a new guy if you want to do that going in there. Why couldn't Soya have been pin Nakajima on the way out if he's going for the title right away? What did Soya do to earn this title shot? Pin Huxley? Who cares?
They are a dumb company.
Exactly. Like, all of these problems are not the wrestler's fault. It's the company's stupid fault for all the bullcrap that they do, and they continue to do. And that's why Kaito's in the second match looking lower than a young lion of New Japan in all of his matches. Nakajima's going out to, hey, I love Sugiura, one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. But at this point, he doesn't need to beat Nakajima. Like, put somebody over. Like, push somebody. It's not hard. It's not hard to push people. Keno has done a great job on his own, building his fan base, working all over the country, at different promotions this year. The YouTube is super hot and doing great things. And hey, talent-wise, again, Kaito, I love his wrestling. He's so good. I think he's a great performer. If they would just not make him, not do what they do to him. You've got something going with the Soya faction with Masa and Inaba. I think that's a good thing. I think Masa and Inaba being a team is a great sign for them. They had a really good run earlier in the year. I thought they broke them up way too early. But there's so many issues. There's so many problems going into this January 2nd show. And we should be at the point where we're praising Soya and Keno for having a potentially great match because, again, much like the story in the main event, this makes every bit of logical sense. You can't say this is a dumb story that they're telling with Soya and Keno. It's not good enough because it's the main show of the year. And I guess the hope is, and again, there really weren't any better options than him, in my opinion, in this company. I actually think if you gave me the roster of Noah and you said you have to pick from one of these guys, I would probably pick Soya as well. I think maybe Hideki could have a great match if they wanted to have a match like that versus Keno. But for a story, I think you've got a lot more juice in Soya going in there, and I would put him above pretty much everybody else. So I think it actually makes sense when you think about it. It's just a shame that they put themselves in this corner that this is the best we have for the biggest show of the year.
Yeah.
And hopefully it'll be a great match and a star-making match for Soya, and he could be a main event player. How old is he anyway? Because he's been around for 15 years.
He's been around. Yeah. It's been around since 2007. He's 38.
16. Yeah, because he started in All Japan.
Mm-hmm.
The good thing about him,
technically, he started in Tradition.
Yeah, that's true.
It was Muga at the time.
Yeah, exactly. That's Nishimura's company as well. But the good thing about him is, remember, in Wrestle 1, he really wasn't working a lot. They started him off as the GM in Wrestle 1 anyway, and then as time went along, they got away from that. He still really didn't actually do a lot. It's not like he was in a ton of main event matches or anything like that, to where he's got all this wear and tear on his body. So it's not like he looks old, per se, or anything like that. And he's a fresh main. He's wrestle young because in the main event he doesn't have any real time in the main event that some of these other guys do. So
he was Wrestle 1 champion twice actually.
So how many big matches did he have in Wrestle
1? Not a lot. The first run lasted 111 days. He had 4 title matches in that first run, and in the second run he had 3. So not that much of a singles run in Wrestle 1.
Yeah, the second one he probably might have exerted a little bit more because the company got a little better with Ashino and these guys coming in. But the fact is, I don't think he has a lot of wear and tear on him. Overall, that's like
probably correct.
He's having these epic matches or anything. I don't really associate with him that. I think this would be a great match, Keno and Soya. I think they could easily deliver a really good match. It's just not as big as you would have wanted if you had your choice. And it's their fault. They should have built it up better to where they're not in this position with multiple people. But for what they have, for where we have, again, if I had taken over the company, like immediately the day before that Noah show on the 28th, and they said, you need to figure out this main event for the second, I probably would have went with Soya.
Yeah. Yeah, probably the only choice. That's right there.
Yeah.
All right. Yes. Pro Wrestling Noah. That's it for you. Oh, yeah. The Undertaker.
Oh yeah.
Can't forget the Undertaker. Jake Lee's old outfit. You've said it has gone the way of the dodo, and he now has adopted this, Undertaker-esque jacket and hat.
What's up with this guy?
How old is Jake Lee? Can you say he's in a midlife crisis?
That's what it feels like. I think he has to be in his mid-30s.
He can't be that old.
No, I think he's like 35, maybe?
He's 34. He's younger than me. He has no right to be in a midlife crisis.
Man, is this what's going to happen when I turn 34 in a few years?
Yes, you're turning into the
Undertaker. I mean, that's the rule, okay? But I don't know. Hey, at least he's trying something different. Yeah. His old look, I guess it didn't really appeal. It's time for a change. Where does he go now that he's lost the title?
That's another interesting question. does he have any room in All Japan now? In Noah now, or that was a Freudian slip, or is?
No, don't come back. There's
I don't know.
Hey, again, I don't hate Jake the way some people do. I thought his title reign was all right.
Mm-hmm.
Much like earlier on, we were talking about the Finley deal. He started off really good, I think. I mean, obviously it started off bad with the Kaito deal. But after that, Nakajima, Marufuji, Sugiura were all strong matches. And he did a great job in them. I think, again, he's another guy where it started off really well, and then it fizzled out. And by the time they got to the tournament, he really wasn't a main event player. To me, I actually thought Keno's match in the N1 with Jake was a lot better than the title match that they had. And I think he's a guy that was his best match. Clearly, he wasn't really a standout player. And he's just not a standout player in general right now in the company. But I don't hate him. I know some people think he's like a really boring guy. And I could see – it's not like I cannot see why. But I do think there's good to him. And I think he's a good player to have on your roster. But I think he's better off in the mid-card and upper mid-card, maybe in a tag team or the national title.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so, too.
I think the national title for January 2nd, his stablemate has the title, so I think that's out of the question.
Yeah, it makes no sense for that, unfortunately, unless there's some kind of turn, I guess. Which I mean, I think that would be stupid if they did that. They have a good thing going with good-looking guys. There's nothing wrong with it. They need to change. Hey, is LJ in good-looking guys now?
He is. Yeah.
Yeah, because I wanted to make sure because he was teaming with Green. In there, and Green took the fall, which set up the tag title deal, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was interesting. I don't think there's anything wrong with GLG. Jake's fine, but like you said, what does he have really left for him that he could do in the company that would be good or interesting or of note?
Yeah, tag title run is what you could do.
Stablemates have those too.
They do.
Yes, so that takes those out. What about the hardcore title, the open weight title?
Yes, that's another great thing. The rule is when you introduce a new championship, Masato Tanaka has to win the title.
That's the rule that everyone knows, and Noah is a great adherent to, clearly. But hey, what about it? Wasn't new. They brought it back.
Yeah,
this is a legend. This is a legendary title, Strigga. I don't understand why you're disrespecting its history here, but yes.
I think that title is more of a gimmick title for the Monday Magic shows.
It absolutely is. I think that could be Jake's future, though.
I was just going to say, I think Jake's future is he benefited from not being in Noah in the last couple of years.
Yes, exactly.
And now his immediate future is, you're going to be pro wrestling Noah, buddy.
Oh, no. Will he face the Mummy? Maybe that's what this Undertaker gimmick was preparing
to face the Mummy.
Yeah, him and Kojima as a mummy.
Mm-hmm.
Book
it. Well, let us go to our final talking point here on the show. It's Dragon Gate. Dragon Gate also ran Osaka. We've said it. New Japan Pro Wrestling ran Power Struggle in Osaka on Saturday, and Dragon Gate ran same arena on Sunday, and they drew about 2,000 fans less than New Japan Pro Wrestling. Kind of had to be expected because the show itself didn't have the greatest of hooks. I mean, the Madoka Kikuta and BIGBOSS Shimizu match has been built up well, but we've seen it this year that Kikuta's title run isn't really getting a lot of fans' interest up. And then the question is now where this title run is going now that it's continuing. But the big talking point, of course, here is, once again, going back to the dodo, Dylan, BIGBOSS Shimizu's chances of ever becoming Dreamgate champion pretty much have gone the way of the dodo as well, haven't they?
They won't have a better opportunity than they had here to make him the champion. And I think it's pretty clear they don't see him at that level. So
I guess so. It was as close as he could get. I thought it was a great match. It wasn't as great as Nakajima and Aoyagi, but they had so much great energy between them. They wrestled a match that it's not a very Dragon Gate style of a match. It was a big hoss fight, you can say, with these two tall guys in the Dragon Gate system, at least. And they just chopped and lariated the ever-living shit out of one another for 25 minutes. And they kicked out of a lot of great stuff. I mean, the lariats that Kikuta threw at Shimizu that he kicked out of were tremendous. And Kikuta got to kick out of the shot put slam, out of the big boss press. Big moves thrown at one another, and yeah, the story of the match was that Shimizu was just not able to put Kikuta away, and in the end, Kikuta successfully defended for the third time. You've said it, and I agree that Shimizu probably is never going to be Dreamgate champion. I don't think that the chance will ever return for him to be as hot. I've said it after the King of Gate 2, and they've rebuilt him since when he defeated all of the Reiwa 6. But that's the story that they've told now, and I don't see this one ever coming back this moment. So I'm not confident. At the same time, going back to my question, Kikuta has not been a great champion because he's just not. He's not the one that really gets a lot of engagement from the crowd. D-Courage is always an act that is so over with the crowd as an act, and they sell a lot of merchandise. At the same time, is Kikuta as a singles wrestler really the guy that should go into the new year as champion? I question that, because we've seen his title matches at World and in August, and here now too, where the crowd, when I compare that to the All Japan crowd, this crowd just wasn't very hot. And I don't see him as champion bringing the company to another level where they need to go, because they had to rebuild all their audiences, and they did to a degree. And I think they needed a new spark on top of their company.
It's hard for me to analyze Dragon Gate in terms of a business sense, because it's so obvious they're not reporting real numbers on any of their shows. And I think that really makes it harder for me to really even imagine, other than things aren't that hot right now. That I can confidently say by watching their shows. Him as champion, I mean, I totally agree with you. I will say that this match was better than what we've seen up to this point. I think this was the closest to what they imagined when they put him as the champion, when they put the title on him. This is what you would have wanted to have. But like you said, if you compare it to the All Japan show, then there's no comparison what a real world champion is and what Kikuta is right now. And it's just a different level. And I don't think that's changed at all. Even with this win, I don't think it's like, this was a great match, but it's not like it feels like this was some big turning point for him where it's like, okay, he's really been elevated now with this win. I just feel like, okay, they built this deal up with Shimizu, and now it's over. And
we go to the next guy.
Exactly. Like, I don't think this will be any lasting, like, memorable storyline for the fans, at least. Maybe it will be. They'll call back to it someday. But just like I said, I don't think they've ever seen Big Boss as a champion level, which I don't agree with. I think he should have been.
I saw a lot of engagement on Twitter today. I personally think this was the wrong decision, because Shimizu has built up a lot of supporters and a lot of believers this year. But much like you said, they don't see him on this level.
And STRIGGA, this is the only title match, really, besides when he won the title, of course. This had an actual story to go with it. There was a reason for people to be invested. Like, there was no reason for anybody to be invested in him and Yoshioka at Kobe World. They didn't do anything to promote it. Him and Minoura, that wasn't a big match at all. Like, so this match, they finally did something and actually let Shimizu go and do a great story with the Big Six, like the fraudulent Big Six that they have right now, that he was able to overcome. they put muscle behind him and actually pushed him. They did what Noah wouldn't do with their guys and actually gave a guy a real push. The problem is that they fumbled the bag at the end. And I agree. I think he should have won. I think it was totally the wrong decision. And he should have, and personally, I think he should have been a champion a long time ago, but it never happened. And I think they definitely had a great spot now to do it. Again, just like I said, they're not going to be able to replicate this again to where he's this, like it's this clear, like that he should win the title. I don't think they'll be able to get there again with him after one more loss like this. So I agree, it was the wrong decision. I don't know why they feel that way, but that's what this loss signified to me, that he's not champion material in their eyes. Maybe they want younger guys surrounding it. I don't know, but I disagree. I think there's more to him than Kikuta for sure as champion.
And it's not like there are challengers lining up. It's they don't have endless people that could realistically become Dreamgate champion.
It's time for that that yearly Mochizuki title.
I was just going to ask who is challenging in December, and well, hello Mochi.
It's who it always is in December, and Benkei as well. I think this could be his time.
Yamato.
Yeah, that's true. They've got some options if they want to do it. I think. I don't know. Like you said, there really is no good option right now to take the title from him on paper. I guess the closest would be Shun if they wanted to do that.
But
which is right where they started before the title reign.
Exactly. And going to the units, this Big Boss Shimizu loss is put into context with Natural Vibes losing a lot in the last couple of weeks. And one of those losses was, of course, KZ losing the Bravegate title to Ishin. They lost again on this show, and I think we're seeing the end of Natural Vibes very, very soon. And I do believe that they will do a unit disband match between Natural Vibes and Zebrats in December, which takes Shun Skywalker out of equation for the title shot at Final Gate.
Why would they do that? They didn't even lose to Zebrats on this show.
Not on this show, no. But it's very easy to eat that back up.
That's where we were at a year and a half ago, and they dropped it.
I know.
And to me, when you look at Vibes, here's what I see. I don't see a unit ready to disband. I see a unit of a bunch of guys they don't think are main eventers, and they don't really matter that much. Other than they're fun to the crowd to put in opening spots, and they're not going to take the dance away like that. I don't foresee them breaking up anytime soon.
Okay.
They need that opening spot, and maybe I'll be wrong.
Their opening spot is great. I agree with that. Yeah.
But where would any of these guys go if they break up? Besides Strong Machine J.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Strong Machine J, he definitely has a case of going anywhere, but all of the others are definitely not on the level that they would matter in any way, shape, or form. But usually at Final Gate they do a unit disband match, right?
When was the last time they did that?
I think 2 years ago. That's
Man. Yeah, when was the last unit disband match that they did? I mean, Masquerade disbanded, but it wasn't. It was because he turned.
It was not a unit disband match.
Yeah, they haven't done that in a long time.
Going to Purolov, going to.
They did something with. Didn't High End lose a unit? It wasn't at Final Gate, but they did something where I did.
Yeah, High End was the last. That's unit.
Yeah.
I can't find out right.
Was that? And I think that was versus Gold Class, if my memory serves me right.
I guess so.
It didn't matter, and it wasn't a Final Gate. I don't see Natural Vibes breaking up.
Okay.
And I don't think they do it. The only thing they do at Final Gate is having Big K and a title shot every year.
No, last year they didn't have one. 2021 they didn't have one either. So you're correct. It's been a long time, and maybe it was just part of my imagination that they usually do one.
But that is a problem, though, when you think about it, that all of these factions have been around.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's no real change to the point you have to go back to this, you know, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Zebrats for the longest time have felt like a lame duck unit when Shun Skywalker wasn't around. They need some shakeups. Maybe they'll get, Yoshiki Kato now that he turned on Mochizuki Jr. Mochizuki Jr. being turned on the second year in a row on Golden Gate of Destiny.
Yes.
He will surely develop a trauma when it comes to this show. Next year he'll not be on. M3K, they haven't really done anything with that group going into a direction of a split up either. Suzumo and Kanda now lost the tag titles to Decourage in a good match, I'd say. But there haven't been really anything that stood out with them in any way, shape, or form, storyline-wise either.
First of all, I want to correct myself. Hyatt broke up by Z-Brats. That was actually this year, at the very start of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hard to believe that, after all of that. But yeah, I remembered it when I saw it now. What did you think of them flipping the tag titles? Like, all of Decourage now have belts. When they won that match, I was certain that Kikuta was going to win the main event.
It was a strong sign, definitely, because he wasn't going to be the only one standing as champion.
I think that's why that match didn't grab me as much as some other people, because it's like, okay, they're not going to take the,
they are investing a lot in Decourage, and like I said, as a unit, they're super over. The people love them. They are lining up and buying all their stuff. It's just not transitioning to the Kikuta title run.
Yeah.
That's the gist of it.
I agree. I just think
I think they are adding Ryura Tanaka to the unit too, which is a great sign because 3 guys in a unit it's not really good. You can't really do a lot of multi-man stuff there. I think adding the youngsters to the groups can vitalize them to some degree, but you can't really add anything, or you can't really add anyone to M3K. It's a unit with 3 Mochizukis and another guy.
That's true. It makes no sense to do that, to be honest.
Then there's natural vibes. They really have to shuffle up the units.
Yeah, that was my point I was thinking about when we were thinking about this. Like, and that high-end match was such a non-factor. That group was dead in the water for a year before anyway. But that's one of the things that used to make DG so special in years past, was these big unit disbands match with stakes, elimination style, like crazy promos, like so many memorable ones in the past. And it's like, man, that's something that's been missing lately. And it's been a long time, because remember, Red really controlled the company for a few years, and they didn't disband, they just changed their name, pretty much. In years past, they would have had a huge breakup match, and like unit disband angle, but they didn't do it this time. And I think that they set it up, again, a year and a half ago now, we're going back, with Z-Brats and Vibes. But they looked like they were heading towards something big, and they just retconned it, pretty much. Like, they totally dodged it. I guess because they wanted to put the title on Shun, and they went away from it for whatever reason. But they need that. They need a big blow-up next year of some sort. But who? Like, who besides... Again, Vibes is very popular, and Z-Brats are the heel groups. But, man, what can they do to make that a big deal?
There has to be some unexpected turn, and I think Natural Vibes is a perfect unit where someone from within turns heel on them.
As long as it's not Jackie Funky Kame.
It can't be UT, it can't be Jackie Funky Kame. I'm looking at Strong Machine J. I think Strong Machine J could really thrive as a heel.
That would totally go against his main feud though, like the team up with Shun.
That's correct.
What about Big Boss?
Yeah,
there's nowhere else he could go really as a babyface. So why not?
Why not here again?
Yeah, screw this. I'm forget this good guy crap. I don't want to be Rikishi.
Yeah, that's a great point actually. Like him and Kai as a tag team, I can see that.
Oh, that would be a lot of fun. Well, I just don't know where they're going with any of their titles right now. When you think about it, I mean, right now the Triangle Gate's on this comedy gimmick.
They have to get rid of that quickly, as I would say. It's been fun, but that's been it.
It's like the tag, like Kanda has been a champion all year in this company. That to me is not, and they had their moment where it was cool and good and a lot of fun.
Yep.
But it lasted 6 months probably past where its expiration date should have been. And I hope that's not where we're at with the Triangle Gate, where we're talking about it heading into Kobe World next year and saying, man, this punch run has been something else here. But and the tag titles, like you said, I like them as a team. I totally approve of them winning the Twin Gates, Dai and Yoshioka. Everything you said about Kikuta was totally facts. Hopefully they could get back to that, them as a team, because I think that they left a lot of ground unexplored with their first title reign. Obviously, they moved on from that because Yoshioka was going to get the Dream Gate. But now they have a chance to really have, kind of like what I said in the All Japan with Honda and Anzai, you could make a legacy type of team with these two.
They really need that, especially Dragon Dian needs that.
Oh, totally agree. I mean, he's been nothing for a year, over a year now. And now they're finally putting him in a big spot with Yoshioka, putting them on equal ground. Yoshioka needed it as well because he hasn't been doing anything this year of like real note. He had the big title match at Kobe World, but it wasn't too special, and nothing he's done has been very memorable. It's been a really lost year overall for him. But now it feels like we're at least ending the year and going into the next one with some hope for them, which I do think is the one big positive to take away from this show, is that they gave those two guys some hope before. And the Dream Gate, it's totally up in the air. I don't think there's any good option on paper. There's a lot of guys they could do, but nobody. I would actually like to see Ben K get the title, honestly, because I think he's very charismatic and over, and I've always loved him as a wrestler. Yeah. And I think he'd be a great person to fill that role for a little while. But hey, remember too, they've got that big show in January. That what do they have in mind?
I would, at this point, book Madoka Kikuta against Luis Mante in the main event.
Yeah, that would be good. That's another thing. Like, if it was an ideal world, we could have gotten to Mante doing something bigger sooner, but he was gone.
Yeah, he was gone, and now they basically had to tread water before Gate of Destiny because the entire focus was on Shimizu and Kikuta. Now, next week, they are doing this handicap match, this 4-on-1 handicap match with Mante facing all of Z-Brats. And we'll see what comes out of that. I can see someone turning to Z-Brats to get the win for them, and then Luis Mante putting together his own unit to fight.
That's clearly
Z-Brats.
Yeah.
Maybe even Kato, who knows? So that's going to be it, and that's going to be the big hook for Final Gate then.
Giving Mante his own unit is clearly the next step for him.
Yeah.
And like you said, we've kind of had to tread water to get through this title match before we get to that. They did something similar to this years ago when Mad Blanky turned on BB Hulk, and they had him try to go through the faction. But he beat two guys and then lost in the middle of it.
Yeah, and it wasn't even for the Dream Gate at that point.
Yeah, I think it was. And it was like it was so weird how that played out. But I actually kind of liked it because, like in American wrestling, if this happened, a top star in a handicap match, he'd just run through everybody. But they actually did it kind of realistic, where he got a couple of wins, but then tired out and fell, which is what would happen in a normal scenario, you would think. So I expect something like that to happen. Mante will beat two of the undercard guys, and maybe once you get to a Kai, or maybe even all the way to Shun, that's when he finally falls. That gives Shun some bragging rights. Like you said, maybe there's a turn. It looks like he's about to get his number, and then somebody else screws him over. I could get down with that, and that would at least set up something to where you could have maybe kind of do what we talked about earlier, build to a big faction match between those two in the future. I think that should be one of their main focuses. But I also like the idea of Mante going for the title as well. He's got a lot as the champion that you could go by, and I think that would establish him really well as a top babyface.
We said it before, the money is with Mante and Skywalker at Kobe World. And
that's a good place to start.
It's a good place to start, and I would even book a Apuestas match between the two. Hair versus Mask.
Yeah. I love that idea. I think putting them together, going on the Lucha background would be great. Would you need the title involved for that, though?
No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't, actually. But I think it makes sense for them to feud around the title.
Would it be better if Shun won the title from Kikuta and then Diamante chased to the...
I guess it would. But just like you said, we'd be at square one again. But
yeah, exactly.
Maybe you have to go there to achieve just that.
Exactly. Like, it's for the greater good. Kind of like what we talked about with Yuma. Like, him losing sucked. Like, what they did kind of sucked, but it was for a better thing in the end. And I think, going back to Shun would be lame. It makes this title reign that Kikuta had kind of not that great. But it's already not that great. So it's fine. I would put the title on Shun. And like you said, I love the idea of them going at it for the title down the line. And the Apuestas deal would make it even bigger and kind of be a great callback to this year as well, if they wanted to do that. So it depends on what they want. We don't know how they think. Maybe they, kind of like I alluded to, maybe they think, okay, we could do this Apuestas match and then have another title match. That would be a big deal. Or you could just put all the marbles. I'm normally a bigger fan of, let's have the biggest match we could possibly have at our biggest show in the main event. And if somebody else loses out, well, they'll have another year to try and get back up there. To me, put the biggest match you can put possible in the main event, put all the marbles on the line, and make it a legendary match that everybody remembers. And if somebody else loses out, I hate it, but there'll be other years for you, and you could have a title. Maybe we'll build back to a title shot later. But I agree with your statement early on. If you want to do it smart, put everything on the line between them, make it an epic end to their rivalry, which has been, was expertly set it up in such an amazing way. And now we're finally able to do more with it. And just doing more with it is a win and step in the right direction too, right? Because they were both gone. So, like I said, it's not the result I wanted. I'd probably be happier if Big Boss won. But I do think one good thing about the show is between the tag titles, between where they're going next week with the handicap stiff with Z-Brats, I think DG's ending the year on a hopeful swing. They're not successful or good right now, but I think they're hopeful that they can get there, which is more than we could say from 2 months ago, to where it just feels like, oh, this company's just going nowhere. Right now it feels like.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. That's it. It was a long show, but Dylan, I really enjoyed going into depth with you on New Japan, All Japan, Noah, and Dragon Gate. I thought this weekend brought out a lot of discussion points, and I think we hit on some of those that were the most obvious. Really enjoyed this show, so thank you for being on with me.
Oh, don't thank me. I love being on. Like I said, I love all the people out there who respond to us on Twitter. Please let us know what you think about anything we got to say. Anything going on in Japanese wrestling, the whole world of it. We talked about a lot of great promotions right now, things going down. As I said, subscribe to us on YouTube, like the videos, give us nice ratings. It helps the show, honestly. I'm not trying to hit you over the head with it, but it would help if you did, so we'd really appreciate it. Keep your thoughts in mind for the year-end awards, too. That's coming up in a couple months. Probably voting will start a month and a half or so on there. We got some big things planned for the first ever year-end awards.
Yes.
It's going to be a big deal going in there. So everybody check it out, the first year of the named awards. Going to be some fun stuff. Maybe by the end of the next episode, there'll be a lot of cool things happening, not just in the promotions we talked about. DDT has their big show. We've got stuff going on all over. Stardom, they have a big show coming up. We don't even know if will the red belt be vacated due to yet another injury, which is what we're worried about there right now.
They are really troubled with these injuries.
Yeah, there's 7 different people that are injured right now. Koguma just got put on the list. They had to take FWC out of the tournament. The tag tournament is another one. I want to cover these shows, but it's so weird because all of these injuries kind of ruined it, and the New Japan show was just so boring. Nagisa Nozaki, she left Wave recently. Yep. She's going freelance now. We'll see what the future holds for her. She's a veteran in the scene and very talented as well. She's had some injury issues, but she's somebody that you'll want to keep a lookout for. You've got Sari, lots of rumors swirling around her. She going back to America. fun stuff happening in Joshi, fun stuff happening in the men's companies, fun stuff happening in the Eastern Lariat as well. And hopefully we've done a good job of being a part of your experience in the Japanese pro wrestling scene. I know we got some people were shouting us out too. A lot of people, multiple people last week.
Yes.
We're talking
about that.
Yeah. Online listed us as a great resource for Japanese wrestling, which I'm very proud of. Thank you to those who said that, along with Emerald Flow Show and Kickout 299 as well, two other shows that we always get associated with us for one reason or another. I tried to talk to Gerard about it, coming on the show, but he was really busy. But one day he will be back on the show, because I've been on Emerald Flow Show before. I've been on Kickout. I talked to Supercrowd too. Jessie does a great job covering her stuff on All Japan. You got to check out her account, Royal Road 1972 on Twitter. Really good stuff there. If you look at a lot of these accounts now, that's something I'm actually very proud of too. When we were really starting out the early years of the show, there wasn't that many people that talked about Japanese wrestling super in depth, but now you've seen it grow over the years. Obviously, there's a big peak period with New Japan itself.
Yep.
But, now, though, you see Royal Road 72 with the All Japan stuff. You see Emerald Flow Show, Kickout 299, lots of different ways, lots of different perspectives, which I think is very important. I like to think, like I said, we're at kind of not the head of the table or anything like that, but we're right up there as great contributors to Japanese wrestling for English speakers, and I hope everybody else feels the same way. And I just want to thank you guys who shouted us all out and had a lot of nice things to say about all of us. And I want to shout out to everybody else who does a show about Japanese wrestling in general too, who contribute in their own ways. And that's something I really love seeing over the years, where you see it. See different people come in and see different people love different companies, different styles of wrestling, and kind of what you said earlier. You mentioned it earlier, to where you have a match like Abe and Nomura on basically a Battle Arts tribute show. Mm-hmm. That meant so much to me, because that was a company that meant so much when I started out. And to see, I remember, because I was really out of commission that whole week. I really didn't get to see it live. But one of the first things I did see when I was able to get back on Twitter was so many people hype for this Battle Arts promotion, which I never thought would happen again, to be honest with you. But it was so cool. So thank you to all the listeners, to all the other contributors and people who love Japanese wrestling. If you really love Japanese wrestling, I love you. So thank you guys so much for that. And thank you guys so much.
Great closing words on your part, Dylan. I want to thank you all for listening, and goodbye.
Sayonara.
Streaming worldwide. This is the MLWRadio.com network.